Welcome to Whisperer of Madness. If you're enjoying the story, consider liking the video and subscribing. It really helps grow the channel and this community. The next day, Ding Songyan and Su Chang'an crossed Fengshui Bridge and walked toward Dangking Temple. "Help me with a small matter today," Ding Songyan said suddenly. Su Chang'an's heart clenched as he forced a smile. "Brother Ding, go ahead." Ding Songyan smiled. "Aren't you still deciding which martial hall to join? Go to Stone Pool Martial Hall today. Look into it more." "That's it." Su Chang'an was somewhat surprised. This was just his daily routine lately. The only difference was that the hall in question was Stone Pool. "I said it was something small." Ding Songyan smiled faintly. "If anyone asks you to pass along a message, just remember it and tell me in the evening. Too many people are watching me. It's not convenient for me to go in person." Nor was it convenient for others to approach him directly. "Got it." Su Chang'an quietly exhaled with relief. Arriving at Dangking Temple, Ding Songyan spotted Xiao Qing at once, in her white top and green skirt. He was stunned. He remembered what he had forgotten last night. He was supposed to visit Xiao Qing's second uncle to demonstrate certain abnormalities through his behavior. But he had forgotten partway there, not long before running into Ren Yaoyang. Moreover, he could not recall what message he had asked Xiao Qing to convey to her second uncle, or what his own clear plan had been up to this moment. Was it Yan Chanking's old acquaintance who acted? After I returned from the mass graves, the Mothmen withdrew and were replaced by one of the masterminds to watch me personally. If so, they're better at thought manipulation than Yan Chanking. Before, I would gradually remember once I left the relevant situation. This time I only had a vague sense something was off. An entire night passed with multiple changes of scenery, and it took seeing Xiao Qing to bring back partial memories. Then again, Yan Chanking is locked in the Zhen Estate's dungeon. He can only use the preset seed to influence my thoughts. It's normal that he can't achieve something like this, but this also reveals that the art probably cannot erase the corresponding memories, only suppress and hide them. As thoughts flashed through Ding Songyan's mind, Xiao Qing turned and noticed him. The girl smiled brightly and waved. Ding Songyan gathered his focus and told his stories as usual, advancing the plot to Su Shilin's first failed attempt to rescue Lady Bai. One more installment, covering the second and third rescue attempts, and the legend of the white snake would conclude with a family reunion. As Ding Songyan collected the silver and copper from his bamboo basket, Xiao Qing moved closer and whispered, "I was ambushed on my way back to Tianyang Hall last night." "Are you all right?" Ding Songyan blurted out. Even someone with Xiao Qing's background gets attacked. "Do I look like something's wrong?" Xiao Qing said with a smile. "We barely exchanged blows before I forced them to retreat. Even the watchtower sentries didn't have time to notice." Ding Songyan studied her expression, wanting to probe further but forgot what he wanted to say. In the end, he could only manage one sentence. "I feel like something isn't quite right." "Really?" Xiao Qing pondered this, puzzled, but found no answers. Ding Songyan remembered something else. He produced the copper coin he had previously sent into the netherworld and retrieved. "Miss Xiao Qing, I happened to come across this item. Can you tell what it might be used for?" The coin was still covered in green corrosion, extremely dull and was cold to the touch. "An yin-yang coin." Xiao Qing glanced at it. "If you know the corresponding art, it can be used when summoning gods or commanding ghosts. If you have enough of them, you can avoid being attacked by using them as passage money when encountering malevolent ghosts in the netherworld. You should keep it on your person and use your lifeblood and viral energies to suppress it. Otherwise, it'll attract unclean things to your home. Most of them can't actually harm people, but they might bring your family bad luck." Before Ding Songyan could thank her, the girl glanced around and said, "I won't be able to help you watch for tales today, but I'll still visit you tonight. The legend of the white snake is reaching its final installment, right? I need to read it in advance." "That works too. I already have 4 groups watching me now." Ding Songyan thanked Xiao Qing, ate a large bowl of braised rice nearby, then headed to the docks. While scanning for Bull, he noticed an elderly man in front of a warehouse. The man had entirely white hair and beard, an ancient-looking face, broad shoulders, and a near-imposing frame. He held a ledger and brush, flanked by several attendants, inspecting goods and recording notes. He wore a fine kudzu cloth robe and a huyang cap. His gait had the bearing of a tiger's stride. Ding Songyan found him vaguely familiar, then recalled this was one of the chess players he had seen on the tower ship's deck during a previous visit. There was also another person who had worn a black gauze-veiled hat. The old man sensed Ding Songyan's gaze and turned to look. Ding Songyan quickly cupped his hands, indicating he had not meant to stare. The old man took no offense. He smiled warmly and continued inspecting his inventory. Ding Songyan circled past the warehouse and soon found the conspicuous Bull. With his brother's request for help as an excuse, Bull marched straight to the foreman and took his leave with complete confidence. "Songyan, you're the best," he thanked Ding Songyan with eager gratitude. Ding Songyan waved it off. "Go on, Bull." After a moment's thought, he added a reminder, "Take it easy. Don't let your violence side out." Bull thumped his chest in assurance. "I know what I'm doing, it's not my first time." "I figured as much. And afterward, all the silver goes straight to Mother." Ding Songyan watched Bull stride toward the North Lane Pleasure Quarter at remarkable speed. Only then did he head to the Zhen estate, don the blindfold, wind through the passages, and arrive before Yan Chanking. Almost simultaneously, cool energy descended into his sea of consciousness, coalescing into the figure in the cyan robe. "Did anything unusual happen?" Yan Chanking opened. Ding Songyan had his answer prepared. "After I returned from the mass graves, the Mothman stopped following me. Ren Yaoyang hasn't located the Moth Patriarch or Moth Matriarch either. Last night, I went out on the pretext of cooling off but forgot what I intended to do. Even now, I haven't fully remembered." He wanted to use Yan Chanking's experience as a Jianghu veteran to gauge what realm this so-called old acquaintance had. Yan Chanking paced with his hands behind his back and chuckled. "I'm already aware. Don't worry." If the one who came were a Heaven Man Realm Supreme Master or even a Spirit Platform Realm Sage, the situation would have escalated long ago. The Zhen household's bluffing would have been seen through immediately. Power borrowed from external sources can never be wielded as naturally as one's own. The true spirit sect wouldn't simply do whatever Zhen Qianfen tells them to. That's reassuring. I hope your assessment is accurate. Ding Songyan relaxed slightly. On the surface, the strongest official force in Dingjiang Prefecture was the Bright Knight Sect Master, a notable figure within the Dharma realm. If a true supreme master or sage were stirring these muddy waters, Ding Songyan was not sure the authorities could resolve things smoothly. As if sensing his concern, Yan Chanking said calmly, "Don't underestimate the Bright Knight sect. If their celestial guardian sword formation has 2 grandmasters as its key nodes, supplemented by outstanding practitioners at the Great Proliferation Realm, it's enough to force a Heaven Man Realm powerhouse to retreat." The old man then added, "What you need to do today is buy a sharp dagger. Bring it with you tomorrow." Bring a dagger. Ding Songyan's nerves instantly tightened. Bringing it was not the difficult part. The Zhen household had never done a body search. The question was, bring a dagger. "Senior, are we taking action tomorrow?" Ding Songyan asked gravely. Yan Chanking chuckled and said, "Strategy is all about the real and the unreal. I cannot give you a definite answer either. If the timing is right, the unreal becomes real. If the timing is wrong, the real can switch to unreal. Are you silently cursing me, saying this leaves you unable to prepare? Just treat tomorrow as if you're helping me escape and prepare accordingly." "Yes, Senior." That was exactly what Ding Songyan had been thinking. The possible eruption of everything that's problematic might only be one day away. After narrating to the point where Su Shilin and Su Xian met but could not see each other, Ding Songyan concluded the day's storytelling and left the Zhen estate as usual. He listened to Jianghu tales outside Dangkang Temple for a while, then spent 3 Cayenne of silver and 70 copper coins on a sheathed dagger forged from fine steel. By evening, he returned to Chengyu Lane and first knocked on Su Chang'an's door. "Any news?" Ding Songyan asked as though making idle conversation. Su Chang'an shook his head. "Nothing beyond training talk. Has the small boat gang just given up on Dingjiang Prefecture? Don't they want revenge? Don't they want to save face? From now on, everyone in Ning Province's martial world will know that when you get angry, it's just bluster." Ding Songyan grumbled inwardly with some disappointment. He could only silently root for the small boat gang, hoping they simply did not want to fall for his tricks again and were secretly preparing to move against the Zhen household. After all, the conflict between the 2 gangs was officially registered. Legitimate combat was sanctioned. Entering his home, the first thing Ding Songyan noticed was the refreshed and secretly radiant Bull, who was pretending to be quiet. Bull split his mouth in a fierce but deeply grateful grin at his brother. The moment Liu Yuzhou glanced over, he immediately dropped his head, the epitome of obedience. Before bed, Ding Songyan helped his brother move the chests and lay out bedding. "How much did you spend?" he asked casually. Bull glanced furtively at the east wing and whispered back, "1 tael and 5 kyan. That expensive?" Ding Songyan was rather taken aback. Although he had never visited this world's pleasure houses, he understood the purchasing power of silver. That price could probably hire someone accomplished in the refined arts like music and literature for emotional companionship. But Bull did not look like someone who valued such things. Not butchering the peony would already be impressive. Why bother playing music for a bull? Bull grinned. "I got 7. One couldn't handle me." Ding Songyan's eyes went round as he looked his brother up and down. Is this even human? Bull wore an expression of fond recollection. The murderous air about him seemed to have faded noticeably. He's quite happy, isn't he? Meanwhile, his little brother can't find happiness at all. By this time tomorrow, I might not even be alive. Ding Songyan stood, preparing to set the door bar. Suddenly, his gaze swept downward. He saw a black-scaled serpent tail glinting with cold light slip from the cuff of Bull's trousers, then retract in a flash. Ding Songyan's expression froze. He turned his body mechanically but normally and fastened the door bar. By the time he turned back, he had already silently moved the hazy seed in his sea of consciousness to both eyes. The world sharpened instantly. In his vision, Bull's feet were like horse hooves. Patches of coarse mane grew on his body. From his tailbone extended a half-length black-scaled serpent tail. Ding Songyan slowly withdrew his gaze. Following a preset routine, he walked back to the west wing, his movements wooden but unremarkable. Qingyan was sitting on his bed, leafing through the previous installments of his Legend of the White Snake outlines. "Second brother, it's almost the final installment, right? Once it's done, you won't need to stay up writing anymore. You can tell me the whole thing from start to finish in full detail." The girl smiled cleverly. "That way I can transcribe it for you and take it to the guild for money." Ding Songyan stared at Qingyan, scanning her up and down. As before, he found nothing abnormal. "What's the matter?" Qingyan looked bewildered. Ding Songyan forced a smile. "I just realized how pretty my little sister is." Qingyan rolled her eyes upward dismissively. "Don't think flattery will get you out of this." "Fine, fine. Once I'm done staying up to write, I'll tell you 1 installment of the Legend of the White Snake every day," Ding Songyan patronized. All he wanted right now was an undisturbed environment to think clearly. Only then did Qingyan smile. She thanked her brother sweetly and retreated to the inner room behind the screen. Ding Songyan sat down and thought briefly. While the illusion-piercing effect of the hazy seed had not yet faded, he dug out a silver ingot Su Chang'an had given him, crossed through the main room, and arrived outside the east wing. He knocked on the door. "Who is it?" Liu Yuzhao's cold voice sounded. "It's me. I have something to discuss." Ding Songyan's voice had returned to its normal steadiness. Before long, the door creaked open. Ding Shengyi, in white underclothes, looked at Ding Songyan with puzzlement. "Songyan, what's the matter?" In Ding Songyan's enhanced vision, his father Ding Shengyi had 2 antennae covered in blood-red scales growing from his temples. His frame was gaunt, tinged with a faint red. What? A term erupted in Ding Songyan's mind. Moth Patriarch. His nerves went taut instantly. He lowered his head, using embarrassment as a cover for his reaction. "Father, I helped Su Chang'an with something earlier and he gave me quite a bit of silver in thanks. Should I turn it over to the household fund?" The slightly feminine Ding Shengyi's antennae twitched. He chuckled softly. "No need. What you earned yourself, you keep." "All right." Ding Songyan did not dare linger. He turned immediately and walked back to the west wing. By the time he sat down again, the supernatural clarity before his eyes had gradually faded. "It doesn't look like a Yao." Ding Songyan drew on everything he had learned these past days to form an initial judgment. "It's more like the physical abnormalities that emerge after cultivating to the great proliferation realm through aperture forging and similar methods. Similar to Master Yu's ears, Physician Xiao's eyes, or Ren Yaoyang's canine ears. He had initially suspected Bull's condition was that of a half-Yao, that perhaps whoever had abducted their mother belonged to a Yao clan. But Ding Shengyi's Moth Patriarch appearance made him lean more toward the possibility of a great proliferation realm cultivator. Surely one family could not contain 2 half-Yao, and of 2 different species at that. Ding Shengyi was controlling the Mothmen that were tailing me. Heth, Whether his name is even Ding Shengyi is another question entirely. No wonder our courtyard has so many mosquitoes and moths. The moth patriarch was here all along. The trait of all insects submit was naturally taking effect. Was he also the one who manipulated Chen Yuliang and Wang Yishu into performing that act, deceiving both me and the Zhen household? Is he working with Yan Changqing's old acquaintance? Did the secret classic originate from Yan Changqing's old acquaintance? When the original Ding Songyan traded the secret classic, was he acting of his own will, or was he forced? Was the secret classic copy something the original Ding Songyan wanted to transcribe, or was he made to do it? This can't really be a family. The more Ding Songyan thought, the more horrified he became. He even began to doubt whether the original was truly named Ding Songyan. Don't tell me that's a fake name too. No, it can't be such a coincidence that a fake name matches the one I had before transmigrating. Sharing the same name being one of the conditions for transmigration makes far more sense. Ding Songyan suddenly laughed, a laugh born of sheer outrage. So all of your fake names were chosen to match mine. This reminded him of a conversation he had once had with his not yet 3-year-old nephew when visiting his cousin. "Uncle, what's your surname?" "My surname is Ding." "Oh, so you took your surname from me too. Daddy did as well." Ding Songyan reined in his thoughts and seriously analyzed a question. How difficult is it to conceal the various physical abnormalities that come with martial cultivation and avoid daily detection? It shouldn't be easy. If it were, Ren Yaoyang wouldn't need to press those dog ears flat against his scalp and cover them with long hair every time he disguises himself. Concealment through a cultivation method. Surely Bull and Ding Shengyi don't both practice the same art. Their physical abnormalities are completely different. Someone is helping them conceal it. And today Bull vented his desires, got carried away, or broke some abstinence by indulging in women, causing the concealment to partially fail. That's very likely. Meaning there's another powerhouse hidden in the shadows, Yan Changqing's old acquaintance. And the corresponding divine arts chi also has the ability to transform and conceal. The original said, "I won't run anymore, don't kill me." His running was probably fleeing this family. No wonder he abandoned even the secret classic copy. Then Yan Changqing's old acquaintance influenced his mind, made him enter the ruined temple where he met his tragic end. That's not right. Why did Yan Changqing's old acquaintance simply plant a hazy seed in his mind, making escape impossible? Just like me now, if I ever truly thought about fleeing Dingjiang Prefecture, I'd forget the idea immediately. I'll ask Xiao Qing later whether there's an art that can help others conceal physical anomalies. Ding Songyan stopped brooding. He moved the wooden chests, assembled his makeshift desk and chair, and brought the oil lamp over. While Xiao Qing had not yet arrived, he pulled out the secret classic copy and flipped through it rapidly by lamplight, searching for a divine beast matching Bull's physical characteristics. He even thought that if Xiao Qing happened to catch him with the secret classic, discovering it would not be the worst outcome. It could be a desperate attempt at survival. His only fear was that she too might forget about it afterward. After a moment, Ding Songyan locked onto a match. Shu-hu, horse body, bird wings, human face, serpent tail. The result of consuming it: strength surpassing 100 oxen, spirit travel across 10,000 miles, resonance with heaven and knowledge of men. Aside from the bird wings, everything else matches. So Bull cultivates the Shu-hu lineage. And he told me it was just innate divine strength, that he'd never practiced martial arts. Well played, Bull. You look like you're not too bright, but you're quite the liar. Mother too. That day she actually ate a steamed bun that had fallen on the ground. That's not a habit a young lady from a wealthy household would have. Our current life isn't rich, but it's not that bad either. I overlooked this at the time. I wasn't familiar enough with her. Thinking back now, either she was never from a wealthy family or she's been crawling through the mud for far too long. If it's the former, then King Yin has been lying to me too. Going on about the Liu family this and the Liu family that. That little liar. Ding Songyan muttered with bitter amusement. He put away the secret classic and began writing the final installment of the Legend of the White Snake. In this installment, Su Shilin first attempted to infiltrate and quietly break the pagoda, but Fahai had anticipated this and repelled him once more. Then, achieving a breakthrough through the power of his emotions, Su Shilin advanced his cultivation. With the return of Zioking the Green Snake and other powerful allies, he finally shattered the Arhat Grand Formation, split Leifeng Pagoda apart, and freed Bai Suzhen. He brought back Su Xian, and the family of 3 was reunited at last. The story ended with Su Shilin's wedding to the former queen of the Kingdom of Women, a scene of joy and harmony. Bravo, 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 Xiao Qing, who had arrived at some point, praised as she read. After finishing everything, she pressed her palms together with satisfaction. Not bad at all. Before I came, I was thinking that if this wasn't the final installment, I'd have to invite you onto our boat tomorrow night to finish the rest. Miss Xiao Qing, your group is leaving Dingjiang Prefecture tomorrow, Ding Songyan asked with genuine surprise. Xiao Qing acknowledged tersely. The Zhen household has invited us to a banquet tomorrow in the early afternoon. Things should come to a conclusion. Whether we get what we want or not, we can't stay long. As you know, we're not from Great Zhao. A banquet tomorrow, also in the afternoon. Something stirred in Ding Songyan's mind. Did the Zhen household only send the invitation after 4 in the afternoon today? Xiao Qing blinked, then answered without concealment, yes. Between 1/4 and 4:30, I bought a dagger. Someone told me to buy it. Ding Songyan tried speaking and found he could say this. Xiao Qing's lips parted slightly, her eyes shifting. The two things are connected. I'll mention this to second uncle later. She stood immediately, pressing her lips together. I should go. If you're in a difficult position, you'd better act fast. I'll walk you part way. I need to cool off anyway. Ding Songyan had already packed away his brushes, ink, paper, and inkstone. There were things he still had not asked Xiao Qing, because right now there were truly ears on the other side of the wall. Xiao Qing nodded, then vanished from the room first, dreamlike and unreal. Ding Songyan did as he had the past few nights. He took his key, walked out, and locked the door from outside. In the courtyard, clean of mosquitoes and moths just moments ago, moths had already begun swarming again. Inside the pitch-dark east wing, Ding Shengyi stood by the oiled paper window in his white underclothes. He murmured with faint irritation, "He's noticed something's off about us. Sister Xiaoxiang, that son of yours keeps breaking the rules, never learning his lesson and nearly ruined everything for us. Luckily, there's only a day or two left. Your sect master can still manage." The lovely and serene Liu Yuzhou, appearing no older than her mid-30s, stood similarly in underclothes. She gazed toward the main room and spoke with calm detachment, as though discussing someone else's affairs. Back then, I thought about dropping him on his head. Ding Shengyi fell silent. After several breaths, he spoke with unmistakable tenderness. Even a tiger will not eat its young. Who could blame you? Once this matter is done, why not take the opportunity to ask your sect master to let you leave all this behind? You're kind-hearted by nature. You were never suited for heretical work. Not like me. I'm long accustomed to it. I don't need to copy sutras or do good deeds to resolve the demons in my heart. If you want to retire from the Jianghu, I can do the same. It isn't difficult for us to find ways to satisfy Li Zhai's lust and bloodthirst. Pleasure houses, moth seeds, and mothmen. It's all manageable. Liu Yuzhou stared at the window paper and shook her head slowly. Long ago, I was trapped in a devil's den. Every time I tried to escape, I was caught and dragged back. No righteous hero could find that hidden place. In the end, the one who rescued me was a heretical titan who double-crossed other heretics. He didn't just save me. He pitied me, taught me cultivation arts, passed down his supreme techniques, and gave me a foundation to make a stand. That day I swore silently. This debt of gratitude I would repay with my life until death released me. How could I leave the sect now for the sake of my own discomfort? Ding Shengyi was speechless for a long time. Finally, he let out a long sigh. Your sect master's divine art and my moth god's scripture complement each other perfectly. After this is over, if he keeps his promise and truly offers guidance, joining you wouldn't be out of the question. I've already betrayed my own sect anyway. At this point, Ding Shengyi hesitated and asked, slipping effortlessly into addressing Qingyan by an affectionate diminutive, "Is Xiao Yan the child you had with him?" "Xiao Yan is not my daughter." Liu Yuzhou shook her head gently. "She has something special about her. The sect master sought her out specifically." If Ding Songyan couldn't make contact with the target, she was to be the alternative. In the gentle night breeze, Ding Songyan and Xiao Qing strolled through the dim and shadowed lanes, heading toward Fengshui Bridge. This time, Xiao Qing had not brought her maidservant. Glancing at the girl beside him, who was as lovely as a painting, Ding Songyan felt a sudden wave of emotion. He had been in this world for less than 10 days, yet it felt like a full month had passed. He had encountered many people during this time and saw quite a few regularly. But among all of them, those who treated him with genuine sincerity, without scheming or wearing masks, numbered only Xiao Qing and brother Yaoyang. Well, Su Chang'an counted as half. And the family he had begun investing his emotions in, the one he had been on the verge of truly belonging to, had shown its true face in less time than it took to drink a cup of tea. He drew a breath, let it out slowly, and smiled at Xiao Qing. "Miss Xiao Qing, aren't you worried about Ren Yaoyang spotting you tonight?" Xiao Qing smiled back lightly. "We might be meeting face to face tomorrow anyway. It doesn't matter anymore." Ding Songyan thought for a moment and reminded her, "Besides Ren Yaoyang's group, the authorities are also following me. Maybe from the county office, maybe from the Bright Night sect. Is that also fine? If your identity is exposed, you might not be able to attend the Zhen household's banquet tomorrow." Xiao Qing blinked innocently. Ding Songyan had nothing to say. After only a few breaths, Xiao Qing swung her arm and said cheerfully, "It's fine. Second uncle will handle it." At that very moment, Ren Yaoyang, dressed in all black, was perched in a tree at the mouth of the lane, craning his neck to peer out. He maintained his balance with difficulty, concealing his presence, watching Ding Songyan stroll alone ahead, occasionally murmuring to himself, "Brother Ding, it's this late and you're still out cooling off. Go to bed early. I have important business tomorrow." Ren Yaoyang muttered silently. In the shadows at the far end of the lane, a constable and a Bright Night sect disciple also watched Ding Songyan's every move in silence. He's alone, but something feels odd. The Bright Night sect disciple's eyes seemed to glow with a dim, amber light that resembled twilight. The constable nodded repeatedly. "I feel the same. Something's off." "Brother Zhang, my skills are too shallow. I can't see through the problem. You keep following. I'll go get help." The Bright Night sect disciple said with some embarrassment. He immediately broke away from the lane's end and circled around in another direction. Seeing that Xiao Qing was unconcerned, Ding Songyan let the matter drop. After a moment's thought, he said, "Miss Xiao Qing, tomorrow's banquet at the Zhen estate may turn chaotic. Be extremely careful. If everything proceeds normally, then the Zhen household may push things back another day or two." He got these words out successfully without forgetting. This was within Ding Songyan's expectations. He had thought it through carefully. Yan Changqing's goal was to escape the Zhen estate and recover his strength. And his old acquaintance, whether trying to rescue him or coveting his treasure, would also have to oppose the Zhen household. Therefore, both forces capable of influencing Ding Songyan's mind would not object to causing the Zhen household some trouble and slowing them down. Xiao Qing kicked a small pebble aside, turned her head toward Ding Songyan, and smiled brightly. "You are plagued with so many troubles of your own, yet you still worry about my safety." Her expression gradually grew serious. "These past few days I've noticed that you carry a heavy weight on your mind. You're probably hiding many difficult things. I have no grand ambitions. Apart from acting with justice, everything I want my family can provide. I won't covet what belongs to others. If you trust me, you can tell me what's troubling you. I might be able to help." Ding Songyan gave a bitter smile. "It's not that I don't want to tell you, I can't. Miss Xiao Qing, what you just said is exactly what I've been desperately hoping to hear." Seeing his expression, Xiao Qing said thoughtfully, "You can't speak. You're unable to. Things like this usually come from goo sorcery. There are no goo insects in your body, that much I can confirm. Has someone used sorcery to control you?" Does it count as sorcery? Ding Songyan thought carefully but could not be sure. He did not yet understand this world's arcane martial arts and goo sorcery well enough. He wanted to suggest to Xiao Qing that there might be another possibility, but feared that the moment he opened his mouth, the words would vanish, just as trying to write something down only to forget what he meant to write. In the silence, a thought suddenly struck Ding Songyan. Beyond the explicit list of forbidden topics, the restrictions placed by Yan Changqing's seed and whatever his old acquaintance may have left in my sea of consciousness probably operate on free judgment to block thoughts. They detect whether I harbor ill intent, whether I'm trying to disclose something. What if I do? Genuinely not having the intention is of course impossible, but I can deceive myself, deceive the seed, deceive whatever Yan Changqing's old acquaintance left behind. Pretend there is no such intention. Normally I couldn't pull off this kind of self-deception, but blame it on Yan Changqing himself to teach me a secret art built entirely around deceiving oneself. Wait. This secret art and his mind-influencing divine art complement and counter each other. They really do share the same origin. Under these circumstances, unless Yan Changqing's old acquaintance is nearby, monitoring my thoughts in real time, they can't preemptively stop this. Could Yan Changqing have been waiting for exactly this? He guesses I won't practice the secret art until after the situation is resolved because I fear hidden dangers. So he uses the seed S control to force me into practicing it. And once I do, I become completely his puppet or vessel. What if I don't actually practice it, but only borrow its core principle for a single act of self-deception? Besides, I have no martial art for the secret technique to take effect with anyway. Ding Songyan ran through the secret art in his mind, discarding the many steps and potentially dangerous portions. Based on the psychological suggestion techniques he knew from his previous life, he isolated the section dealing solely with self-deception. The hazy seed turned, causing Ding Songyan's consciousness to split in two. Half retreated into his sea of consciousness, sitting cross-legged in the void. He lowered his gaze to the countless thoughts that formed the golden, illusory ocean. As his mind stirred, each thought took on his appearance. Looking into those many pairs of familiar eyes as though into mirrors, Ding Songyan began to murmur in a specific rhythm. To deceive others, first deceive yourself. The false can become true. Believe and it exists. I am merely discussing various possibilities with Miss Zio Ching. I have no intention of revealing secrets. Merely discussing various possibilities. As the words repeated again and again, Ding Songyan's eyes grew deep and unfathomable. So too did the eyes of each thought form within the sea. Seeing Ding Songyan walk on in silence without responding, Zio Ching waved her slender, pale hand before his eyes with puzzlement. May your soul come back to me, tilde, may your soul come back to me, tilde. Ding Songyan's eyes shifted. He spoke in a low voice. Perhaps there's another possibility. Another possibility. Zio Ching frowned in thought. Zio Ching's second uncle was walking along the main road some 70 or 80 feet away. He suddenly turned his head, looking toward a building facing the street. Under the bright half-moon, a black figure burst through a window, sword in hand. In the figure's vision, a pair of eyes suddenly appeared. They were slightly upturned, luminous and clear. In that instant, he felt as though he had come home and was looking at the person he longed for day and night. His heart went soft as well as his hand. A palm with long, slender fingers then pressed against the center of his brow. He collapsed to the ground and stopped breathing. Within moments, a moth resembling a large red ant crawled from his nose and mouth, causing his body to begin a rapid decay. Zio Ching's second uncle caught the moth seed in one hand and found it had already split open on its own, motionless. He discarded the moth seed, produced a white handkerchief, and gently wiped his palm before turning his gaze back toward Zio Ching and Ding Songyan. Though he had acted just now, most of his attention had remained on them. Atop the nearest watchtower, the Yi Clan constable on duty saw only a figure leap from a window of its own accord, landing headfirst and dying on the street. He immediately used his signal lantern to alert a nearby patrol squad, sending them to collect the body and investigate whether the apparent suicide concealed something else. Zio Ching thought for a long time without result. She looked at the sparsely populated street and the still lively Feng Shui bridge in the distance, then said with a hum of acknowledgement, "Ding Songyan, you're the first friend I've made since entering the Jianghu. I hope we can meet again someday. First, I need to survive the next day or two." Ding Songyan wanted to say this, but forgot the words. He could only laugh at himself. "I'll try," Zio Ching laughed. "Try what? You've been asking questions left and right. I could tell long ago that you're very interested in martial cultivation. If you're willing to leave home and travel to the Gan Kingdom, I can help you find several sects that would suit you. You can choose one to join." Ding Songyan's heart leapt. Was this not exactly what he had been dreaming of? But thinking of his parents, his sister and brother, thinking of the Gan Kingdom where foreign races occupied the upper class, he hesitated. He weighed his words. "Miss Zio Ching, might I give you my answer tomorrow evening?" He needed time to think it through properly. "Of course. It's not like you're alone in this world, after all." Zio Ching showed her understanding. She waved farewell to Ding Songyan and walked alone toward Feng Shui Bridge and Tianyang Hall. Ding Songyan turned and retraced his steps back toward Chengyu Lane. The closer he drew to the familiar lane, the more an inexplicable unease crept over him, as though he feared something yet could not identify what. It made his pace grow heavier, slower with every step. What is there to be uneasy about? I'm just going home to sleep. Even Ding Songyan found his own reaction puzzling. Reaching the well, hearing Ahua bark at a passerby, he found himself lingering, unwilling to go further. The night seemed to have thickened, heavy and oppressive. Suddenly, a gentle, warm, amber-toned light entered Ding Songyan's eyes and his mind. The many dark thoughts lurking in the depths receded like a tide. The hazy seed and certain shadows sank in unison, hiding themselves beneath the illusory ocean. Ding Songyan's thoughts became instantly active. He looked toward the source of the light and first saw a glass palace lantern, then the girl carrying it, followed by several Bright Night sect disciples. The girl walked toward him like a willow swaying in the breeze. She was tall, with eyebrows slightly thicker than usual, lending a touch of heroic spirit to her clean and lovely face. Under the bright moonlight, she wore a pale green skirt with a silk kerchief binding her long black hair. Her beautiful eyes gleamed with life, as though starlight and candle flame truly dwelt within them. She stopped as the lantern swayed gently. The girl looked at Ding Songyan with a smile that was clean and warm. "I'm Bright Night Sect S. Zheng Zhuxi. I have some questions for you." Zheng Zhuxi, the Zheng Zhuxi from the Bright Night Sect that Brother Yaoyang mentioned. Ding Songyan suddenly felt he had finally found the right person after searching high and low. He had long wanted direct contact with someone from the Bright Night Sect, but had never managed it. Only a few scattered words were exchanged in passing. Looking back now, this was probably because Yan Chanking's old acquaintance had been influencing his thoughts, making him voluntarily find all manner of reasons to delay the matter. Once Yan Chanking planted the seed, he barely even thought about it anymore. After all the twists and turns, Zheng Zhuxi, the very person Ren Yaoyang called trustworthy, had come to him today of her own accord. Studying the girl's expression and bearing and recalling her tone and choice of words, Ding Songyan formed a rough assessment. A deeply proud person. This fits perfectly with the descriptions and rumors. Her mother is the Bright Night Sect master, her father is a high court official, and she has exceptional talent. These thoughts flashed through Ding Songyan's mind as he cupped his hands toward Zheng Zhuxi with visible respect. "Greetings, heroine Zheng." All he hoped right now was that she was as Ren Yaoyang described, righteous, and especially willing to help those without status or standing. Zheng Zhuxi gave a slight nod and asked directly, "I've read your file. Do you truly not remember what treasure you traded with Chen Yuliang?" Hearing this, countless thoughts surged through Ding Songyan's mind, colliding into spark after spark. He seized one, let difficulty and fear show on his face, and finally spoke with hesitation. "Heroine Zheng, I dare not hide anything while standing before you. I had forgotten, but at the time, Wang Yishu mentioned that it was the secret classic of mountains and seas." Faced with someone this proud, you had to let them easily discover something others could not, that they had effortlessly drawn out truths others had failed to extract. Only then would they develop a favorable impression of the person they were questioning. Moreover, Ding Songyan was also gambling. After handling the Chen Yuliang aftermath, the party most likely to have obtained that copy of the secret classic was the Zhen household. This meant the authorities, represented by the Yi clan and the Bright Night sect, would inevitably focus their attention on the Zhen household. With them watching, whatever might happen tomorrow would have a favorable variable. Though this would also place Ding Songyan himself under suspicion, compared to his other troubles, it was nothing. Between two evils, choose the lesser. He was walking on a mountain ridge with cliffs on both sides. He could not afford to worry about everything. Zheng Zhuxi listened quietly. A smile gradually surfaced, two shallow dimples appearing, nearly rivaling the brightness of the moon above. "The secret classic of mountains and seas. Why didn't you say so before? I heard that the major sects don't permit anyone to privately possess or come in contact with the secret classic. I was afraid that speaking up would land me in a cell," Ding Songyan answered honestly. "But heroine Zheng, your reputation precedes you. You are known to pity the weak and protect the innocent." "I'm willing to trust you." The corners of Zheng Zhuxi's mouth curved as she nodded, amusement in her eyes. "The Zhen household probably also told you not to speak of it. Why tell me? The Zhen household may have harmful intentions against me." Having found topics that neither the hazy seed nor Yan Chanking's old acquaintance would restrict, Ding Songyan answered without the slightest stammer. "Brother Yaoyang informed me that the Zhen household has been having retainers follow me." Zheng Zhuxi acknowledged tersely and glanced at the finely crafted glass palace lantern in her hand. "You're acquainted with Ren Yaoyang of the True Spirit sect. We have some friendship." Ding Songyan did not exaggerate. Zheng Zhuxi's luminous eyes moved slightly. "Then why have you continued going to the Zhen estate every day these past few days?" Ding Songyan tried answering, The Zhen household won't let me tell others. Wait, I can say that. On the surface, this sentence seemed unremarkable. But placed alongside his willingness moments ago to reveal the Zhen household's involvement with the secret classic, the contradiction between the two immediately became peculiar, inviting deeper thought. Both matters involved the Zhen household. Why could one be shared while the other could not? What was the difference? What restriction existed? And being able to say this sentence also confirmed something Ding Songyan had been feeling. Ever since Zheng Zhaxi appeared with that lantern, shining its light on his face, the hazy seed in his sea of consciousness had become less active, as though suppressed by something inherently opposed to it. If Zheng Zhaxi's cultivation were deeper and her power greater, he might have been able to temporarily break free of Yan Changqing's and his old acquaintances' restrictions entirely. So that's how it works. Many of the peripheral restrictions have loosened. Is this a manifestation of the penetrates the deepest dark, trait from the two goddesses' Bright Night and Candle Flame's descriptions? At this thought, Ding Songyan wished he could immediately visit Zheng Zhaxi's mother, the Bright Night sect master, that formidable figure ranked among the Dharma realm's finest, and ask her to properly illuminate him. Zheng Zhaxi pressed her lips together, clearly having noticed the inconsistency as well. She changed her question thoughtfully. Do you know that besides the Zhen household's retainers, people from the Moth God sect who had been secretly controlling Chen Yuliang are also following you? I do. Ding Songyan was perfectly candid. Ren Yaoyang told you. Zheng Zhaxi was not surprised. Ding Songyan deliberated his choice of words. Brother Yaoyang did discover the second group of tales, but the Moth God sect connection was something I told him. You. No wonder he suddenly came to the county office asking for Moth God sect intelligence. Zheng Zhaxi looked at Ding Songyan with puzzlement. How did you find out? Ding Songyan closed his mouth, smiling without a word. He had already forgotten what he was supposed to say. Core matters were still restricted. Zheng Zhaxi raised an eyebrow. Connecting this to the contradictions in his earlier words, her eyelids lowered slightly, lost in thought. After only a few breaths, her smile returned, dimples showing once more. In that moment, Ding Songyan felt as though he were watching a rising sun begin to radiate its light. Do you trust me? Zheng Zhaxi asked with a smile. I am willing to trust you, heroine Zheng. Ding Songyan did not hesitate. At this point, he would beg even a dog by the roadside for help, grasp at straw floating over the river. It was needless to say when it came to someone like her. Zheng Zhaxi nodded with satisfaction. She handed the glass palace lantern to a fellow disciple, then drew her sword from its golden red sheath in one clean motion. The sword was like a pool of autumn water, quickly taking on a warm, amber candle-light glow. Zheng Zhaxi smiled faintly. If you trust me, then open your body and mind completely. I will lend you a thread of sword intent. This sword intent will settle in your Shanzhong acupoint, the central dantian known as the Crimson Palace. It can last 3 days. During those 3 days, if anyone uses a moth seed, goo sorcery, or any other method to make you do something against your will, you can use this sword intent to illuminate your inner sea and block it once. When she said any other method, the amusement in Zheng Zhaxi's eyes deepened. Heroine Zheng, I am deeply grateful. Ding Songyan could not have asked for more. This was exactly what he needed. His only concern was whether Zheng Zhaxi's sword intent could truly block one forced compulsion from Yan Changqing or his old acquaintance. After all, based on the Jianghu rumors Ding Songyan had gathered these past days, this heroine Zheng was only 20 years old. She had begun aperture forging barely over half a year ago. The Orchid rankings placed her at Anomaly Manifested, the 6th rank. She was not even as high as Chen Yuliang. If it were her mother, Tao Wenshu, a first-rank grandmaster, Ding Songyan would feel absolute confidence. As things stood, he could only pray that the Bright Night sect's art inherently countered Yan Changqing's and his old acquaintances' divine art, giving it exceptional effect in this specific regard. He was not asking the sword intent to truly block a forced compulsion outright. It would be enough if it could simply wake him in time or create an inner struggle. Protecting the realm and safeguarding the people is the Bright Night sect's duty. Zheng Zhaxi thrust the sword now glowing with warm amber candlelight toward Ding Songyan's chest. Ding Songyan did not dodge or resist. As Zheng Zhaxi requested, he opened himself completely, body and mind. The sword pierced his clothes, touching his skin. The warm, amber light on the blade flashed once and vanished, sinking into his chest and entering the Shanzhong acupoint. It swiftly transformed into a stub of candle shaped like a short sword, its amber flame flickering, barely illuminating the Crimson Palace, a place that inherently represented the fire of the heart and the convergence of all qi. The deep darkness retreated to the outer layers. With a clear ring, Zheng Zhuxi sheathed her sword. She gave Ding Songyan a small nod. You truly have no martial cultivation. I've asked what I needed to ask. Is there anything else you wish to say? Ding Songyan considered which things he could say and which he could not, and among those he could, which would most effectively reveal the situation and draw the Bright Knight sect's attention. Quickly, he chose to accept the risk. He asked with unconcealed curiosity, Heroine Zheng, where do you think a nearly complete secret classic of mountains and seas might have come from? Wait, I can ask this too. Is it Zheng Zhuxi's art weakening the restrictions to this degree, or did one of the two influencing my mind actually want this information to get out? Ding Songyan was puzzled at first, then found his answer. Right. It was Wang Yishu and Chen Yuliang who told me the secret classic was genuine and complete, and they were jointly controlled by Ding Shengyi, the Moth Patriarch, and Yan Changqing's old acquaintance. If they didn't want me to eventually have the opportunity to ask this question, they never needed to mention it in the first place. Nearly complete. Zheng Zhuxi's expression changed slightly. Then, thinking it through, she said, either there exists a powerful, hidden organization with highly placed agents inside every major sect, which, through repeated comparison and assembly of each sect's partial copies, finally produced such a volume. Or someone found the long-vanished Mount Kunlun and entered the celestial Thirch's palace. Found the long-vanished Mount Kunlun and entered the celestial Thirch's palace. Ding Songyan's gaze froze. It was as though lightning had struck inside his mind. He still remembered what Yan Changqing had said. He had betrayed his sect to seize a treasure, sustained grievous injuries, and ended up in his current predicament. Did it not all fit together now? A treasure that could make Zhen Qianfen so greedy he betrayed his greatest supporter was no ordinary thing. A treasure that could make someone of at least supreme master level like Yan Changqing betray his own sect was rarer still. The vanished Mount Kunlun, the palace left behind by the celestial Thirch, that explained everything. That secret classic was probably transcribed by Yan Changqing himself while looking at the Emperor-annotated classic. No wonder he could divine that I'd read it. Was the secret classic placed at the treasure's hiding spot in advance and dug up by someone else, or did it leak out from the Zhen estate? If the latter, what was the Zhen household's purpose in letting it out? As Ding Songyan's thoughts churned, Zheng Zhuxi also fell silent, her expression visibly shifting. Moonlight swayed. Zheng Zhuxi's eyes flickered as she looked at Ding Song and said, Is there anything else you wish to ask? Ding Songyan shook his head slowly. Not only had he seemingly achieved his goal, but in the process he had connected many things and figured them out. Who knew what treasure Yan Changqing actually brought out from the celestial Thirch's palace on Mount Kunlun? Even without a treasure, the mere knowledge of where the vanished Mount Kunlun was and how to enter it would be enough to drive sages and supreme masters to war. We'll be watching. Zheng Zhuxi nodded with considerable seriousness. She took back the glass palace lantern and led her group of Bright Knight sect disciples out of Chengyu Lane. Seeing no one else around, Zheng Zhuxi glanced up at the tallest watchtower, then said with some hesitation, Senior Sister Yu, Senior Brother Wu Feng, will go to the prefectural and county offices first to report this. Then we'll send a carrier pigeon back to the sect and ask my mother or one of the senior uncles to rush here overnight. If there's no reply by early morning, the three of us will make a trip back to the sect ourselves. The situation is complex. Night travel is dangerous and unpredictable. Without a powerhouse ranked at form transfigured or above to accompany us, no one should attempt to leave the city and report back to the sect on their own. That last part explained why they would only send a carrier pigeon tonight. Senior Brother Wu Feng, expressionless in his black fitted uniform, thought for a moment. What Ding Songyan said, this matter involves not just the Zhen household, but also a nearly complete secret classic of mountains and seas. It may even hold the answer to Kunlun's disappearance and a treasure from the celestial Thirch's palace. Why not keep this quiet for now and inform only the sect? Even if the carrier pigeon doesn't work once dawn breaks, a round trip would take only half a day. Zhang Zhaxi walked along the dark street, her light green skirt swaying gently with her steps. She was silent for a long time before pressing her lips together. Human lives hang in the balance. Saving someone is like fighting a fire. The powerhouses at the prefectural and county offices are nearby. How could we pass over what's close to seek what's far? Tao Weiyu opened her mouth as if to say something, but in the end remained silent. Wu Feng watched Zhang Zhaxi's retreating figure, his expression unchanged. He said in a low voice, "Candlelight illuminates the long night." The long night exists both outside and within the heart. For junior sister Zhang to make this decision, her future achievements will be boundless. Senior brother Wu, you act purely for the sect's sake. There's no question of who's right or wrong between us. Zhang Zhaxi seemed to lighten considerably, her smile clear and bright. Since I'm leading this patrol, the decision is mine. Afterward, I'll be the one to face the disciplinary elder's inquiry. There's punishment, just say I acted alone and couldn't be dissuaded. After his exchange with Zhang Zhaxi, the baffling oppression Ding Songyan had felt earlier dissipated considerably, yet he felt like he had forgotten something. This made him walk home at an unhurried pace before lying down. He was drifting toward sleep when he suddenly heard sobbing. It came from the inner room partitioned by the simple screen. The crying was deeply anguished. "Qingyan!" Ding Songyan called out in puzzlement. "Second brother, I had a nightmare," Ding Qingyan sobbed. Ding Songyan felt a flash of helplessness. "What kind of nightmare?" Qingyan sniffled. "First I dreamed that we moved back into that big compound. But then father died, mother died, bull died, and you died too. The whole courtyard was covered in blood, bright red everywhere. I was the only one standing there looking at it, just me all alone." Her weeping grew harder to contain as she spoke. "Dreams are the opposite of reality." Ding Songyan tried to comfort her. Qingyan choked out between sobs, but it felt so real, like it had actually happened. "Then I dreamed we were still in this courtyard. Mother killed Bull, killed father, and you left me. I didn't know where you'd gone. I was alone in this room, just me all alone." "I'm right here, are I?" Ding Songyan said gently. Qingyan seemed to be wiping her tears and nose with a handkerchief. After a while she said, "I also dreamed I was waiting for you to tell me a story to lull me to sleep. I waited and waited and waited, and you never came. The room was so dark. There seemed to be blood on the window." By the end, the girl was sobbing again. "Should I tell you a story now?" Ding Songyan did not think his sister was crying like this just to trick him into narrating. "No need," Qingyan replied, her nasal voice thick with congestion. She spoke with fear, trembling slightly. "Second brother, do you think something bad is going to happen? Why else would I dream like this? Second brother, I don't want to be separated from all of you. Second brother, I don't want you to die." Thinking of what might happen tomorrow, Ding Songyan's emotions churned. He did not know how to console her. "I haven't shown any outward signs. Is my sister this sensitive to bad things?" Ding Songyan sighed inwardly, then said to Qingyan, "Nothing will happen. I won't die. Wherever I go, I'll take you with me." "Swear it!" Qingyan seemed to know she was being somewhat unreasonable, but still could not fully calm herself. "Fine, fine, fine." Ding Songyan deliberately made conversation. "Who should I swear to?" "Swear to the supreme celestial worthy of mysterious origin." Qingyan recalled after a moment. This was the honorific given to the celestial theurge after Taoism incorporated him into its pantheon. The full title was far too long for most people to remember, so commoners used this abbreviation. Ding Songyan cleared his throat. "I, Ding Songyan, swear to the supreme celestial worthy of mysterious origin that I will not die, will not abandon my little sister, and will take her wherever I go. Otherwise, may lightning strike me, fires burn me, or floods drown me." The prerequisite for violating this oath was his own death, so Ding Songyan swore it without any psychological burden. Once you're dead, what is there to fear? However, given that this was a world with supernatural powers and a netherworld, he quietly changed the eternal damnation he had been about to say into fires and floods. What if the dead retained awareness, or there was a next life? As for taking his sister wherever he went, that was just an extra pair of chopsticks and another bowl. Only then did Qingyan say with satisfaction, "Then I believe you." She tossed and turned for a while before finally falling asleep again. The next day, Ding Songyan, having slept poorly, left the house with slightly puffy eyes, carrying his storytelling equipment. "Songyan," Bull, who for some reason had not yet left for the docks, came over with a smile. "You've been so good to me. I'll remember it." Why is he saying this out of the blue? Ding Songyan responded with a couple of confused words, then headed to Dangkang Temple with Su Chang'an. With the market in sight, he thought for a moment and said to Su Chang'an, "Come to my house at 4 in the afternoon. If I'm not there, go to the county office and report that the Zhen household is trying to harm me." "What?" Su Chang'an looked at Ding Songyan with alarm and uncertainty. Ding Songyan smiled and nodded. "Don't worry about anything after that. If things were to erupt today, then no one should still be watching an insignificant figure like Su Chang'an. If nothing erupted, then Ding Songyan would certainly be home waiting for him by 4. And besides, Su Chang'an might not even remember this conversation by then." Su Chang'an's throat bobbed several times. "Okay." They parted ways. Ding Songyan arrived at his spot, gathered his focus, and delivered the final installment of the legend of the White Snake with all its dramatic peaks and valleys. The story ended with the warm scene of a family reunited. Looking thoroughly satisfied, Xiao Qing tossed in another silver piece. The rest of the audience opened their purses more generously than ever upon seeing the happy ending. "See you this evening." Xiao Qing was hurrying off to the Zhen household's banquet and did not linger. She waved and left with her maidservant toward Tianyang Hall. Ding Songyan was about to leave when a fellow storyteller in a dark blue robe approached. The man in his 40s smiled broadly. "Ding Songyan, would you let others tell your legend of the White Snake? I plan to compile it properly these next few days and see if the guild wants to buy it." Ding Songyan had been thinking about this for a while. He now understood the local trade's rules well enough. If someone else wanted to tell his legend of the White Snake, they had to pay him and get his permission. Otherwise, they would need to completely rework it beyond recognition. Of course, if someone who had heard the story went to the Flame Capital or another province to tell it, he would have no reach to stop them. If he sold the script to the guild, other storytellers only needed to pay the guild a fee to perform the story and could make their own adaptations without consulting him. Whether Ding Songyan received a share depended on the terms he negotiated. Additionally, the local guild would recommend good scripts to guilds in other provinces for a fee. Those guilds, if they purchased the rights, would similarly watch for unauthorized performances. This was what people meant by all guilds under heaven are one family, bound together even when the bones break. Internal disputes were settled behind closed doors. Hearing Ding Songyan's words, the colleague beamed. "Excellent, excellent, very generous of you, Ding Songyan." Ding Songyan exchanged a few modest words and was about to leave when more people approached, all representatives from well-known entertainment halls in the North Lane Pleasure Quarter, inviting him to perform. He did not even know if he would have it tomorrow. Using the excuse of careful deliberation, he left the Dangkang Temple Market. After a quick meal, he arrived outside the Zhen estate but did not immediately go in. Instead, he paced nearby, waiting for Xiao Qing and her second uncle, as well as Ren Yaoyang to appear. His intention was to show his face in front of Xiao Qing and Ren Yaoyang to silently tell them, "I'm here at the Zhen estate as usual, just as I am every day. If something goes wrong, remember to pull me out." While waiting patiently, Ding Songyan suddenly spotted a familiar figure. It was his mother, Liu Yuzhou. Liu Yuzhou wore a dark front-buttoning jacket and a blue paired apron, her head covered by a black gauze-veiled hat. She walked toward the Zhen estate at an unhurried pace. "Mother, what brings you here?" Ding Songyan approached, puzzled. "Visiting Nuanshang," Liu Yuzhou said simply. Ding Songyan was silent for a moment before saying, "The Zhen estate has important guests today. Best not to stay too long. It could be dangerous." Liu Yuzhou acknowledged tersely and entered the Zhen estate through a side door. Watching her go, Ding Songyan was first puzzled, then felt a sharp throb in his head. Fake, fake, fake. Something seemed to explode inside him, echoing without end. In a flash, Ding Songyan remembered what he had discovered and forgotten last night. Ding Shengyi was the moth patriarch, who manipulated mothmen to perform their act. Bull was a martial cultivator of considerable attainment whose body bore physical abnormalities. And all of this had been completely forgotten during his evening stroll with Xiao Qing. The moment these memories returned, Ding Songyan was struck by a recollection of the questions he had asked Qingyan on the very first day after his transmigration. "How do I know you're really my sister? And how would I know the people who come are really my father and mother?" His own words had become prophetic. Ding Songyan's emotions surged. He failed to activate his illusion piercing in time to glimpse Liu Yuzhou's true state. By the time his nominal mother disappeared into the Zhen estate's covered walkways, Ding Songyan had finally gathered his thoughts. He mocked himself in silence. My instincts really were right all along. At least we only lived together for a few days. I hadn't invested too deeply. Otherwise, my resolve might genuinely have shattered. Recalling everything that had happened and combining it with his earlier deductions, Ding Songyan rapidly formed a clearer picture of the Ding family's situation. Ding Shengyi was cooperating with Yan Changqing's old acquaintance. Using enhanced Mothmen that exceeded normal capabilities, they had staged the entire drama, the small boat gang's repeated provocations, and Chen Yuliang's audacious purchase of the secret classic. This meant they had come specifically for Yan Changqing. Whether to rescue him or to claim the possible celestial Thirch's treasure and the location of Kunlun remained unclear. Perhaps both. Before they even arrived in Dingjiang Prefecture, their relative, Qin Nuanshang, had already been married into the Zhen household for over 2 years. Learning that the Zhen household regularly had its members study storytelling would have been trivial. They might even have known about the distinguished guest in the dungeon. Therefore, Ding Songyan's identity as a storyteller was almost certainly custom-built. Ding Shengyi and Yan Changqing's old acquaintance hoped that with Qin Nuansheng's influence, the original Ding Songyan would have the chance to reach Yan Changqing through storytelling, laying the groundwork for a future rescue. If this reasoning was correct, Ding Songyan believed the original had been an unlucky innocent chosen for the role. Before things actually unfolded, anyone would have assumed that an outside storyteller entering the dungeon to perform for Yan Changqing would inevitably undergo thorough inspection by the Zhen household's experts. Patriarch Zhen himself might personally scrutinize the candidate. At that level, no concealment art, however powerful, could likely fool a grandmaster so familiar with Yan Changqing's methods. Given this logic, finding a genuinely ordinary person and controlling them through an implanted hazy seed or constant thought manipulation was far more covert and far less likely to alert Patriarch Zhen. As for why the Zhen household later proved so careless, failing to thoroughly examine Ding Songyan before sending him in, that was naturally because they had their own schemes. Viewed this way, the original Ding Songyan was probably chosen for this tragic role simply because he could tell stories and bore some resemblance to Ding Shengyi and Liu Yuzhou. He became a pawn virtually guaranteed to die. Master Yu had probably lied as well. What Yan Changqing enjoyed was likely not just legends and sagas, but also historical tales and Jianghu anecdotes. The original's skill at historical narration was equally suited to Yan Changqing's tastes. After that, the Ding family had been in Dingjiang Prefecture for over half a year, yet Qin Nuansheng still could not arrange for the Zhen household to hire an outside storyteller. Growing impatient and fearing that further delay would introduce more variables, they shifted from finesse to force. Hence the small boat gang's provocations, Chen Yuliang's transaction with the original Ding Songyan for the secret classic, all designed to ignite an intense conflict between the Four Waters Brotherhood and the small boat gang, forcing Patriarch Zhen to personally intervene and leave the estate. After being compelled to participate in the transaction, the original Ding Songyan thought he could escape. But his escape was itself part of the plan. Without his flight or death in the ruined temple, the conflict could not escalate quickly enough. In the end, Ding Songyan's transmigration meant the original Ding Songyan did not die. This shocked Yan Changqing's old acquaintance and Ding Shengyi, forcing a temporary change of plans. They sacrificed Chen Yuliang and let the matter quiet down. The plan was later back on track when the Zhen household invited him to tell the legend of the white snake to Yan Changqing. The current question is, everyone else in the Ding family has a role. What purpose does King Yin serve? Ding Songyan stood in the shade across from the Zhen estate, lost in thought. While in his illusion-piercing state, he had found no physical abnormalities in King Yin. This meant his sister was either a very, very powerful powerhouse or special in some other way. Related to a third approach the mastermind prepared, beyond finesse and force. Ding Songyan gazed thoughtfully toward the eastern end of North Water Street. 2 carriages approached from that direction, their wheels rolling over flagstones with a rumbling sound. One had wind chimes hanging from it, their crisp tinkling drifting pleasantly through the air. The carriages stopped before the Zhen estate's entrance. From the first, 2 attendants alighted, followed by a handsome man who appeared to be in his early 30s. He wore a bamboo crown and gray robes with wide sleeves. Every gesture carried a refined detachment. He showed no physical abnormalities. Xiao Qing descended from the second carriage with her maidservant. A white kerchief bound her black hair. She wore a lake blue fitted outfit with white boots embroidered with floral patterns, the very image of a Jianghu swordswoman, both vividly lovely and dashingly heroic. She took my warning to heart. That's clearly an outfit suited for responding to trouble and fighting. Ding Songyan quickly stepped out from the tree's shade to make himself visible to her. As the Zhen estate's main gate slowly opened, Xiao Qing's bright eyes swept the area and found Ding Songyan. She smiled and nodded at him as a brief greeting. Ding Songyan's objective was achieved. Shortly after, with Zhen Quanweng receiving them, Xiao Qing followed her second uncle through the fully opened gate, past the idolatry wall, and into the estate's depths. Their carriages rolled forward a short distance further, stopping at a row of hitching posts. Before Ding Songyan could retreat back to the shade, the clatter of hooves sounded, growing rapidly closer. Ren Yaoyang rode over quickly on a white horse, leading 4 guards. He was still in his feathered robes and tall cap, canine ears standing erect, though without his handmaidens this time. The 5 thoroughbreds halted. Ren Yaoyang dismounted with reasonable agility, his 4 guards following in neat unison. Ren Yaoyang glanced around, spotted Ding Songyan, and actually raised his hand with a smile to beckon him over. "Brother Ding, you're here too." Damn, Brother Yaoyang really is generous with his goodwill. Under normal circumstances, just this public greeting would be enough to get me accepted into any non-top-tier sect, my stock rising overnight. Ding Songyan approached, both surprised and grateful. Ren Yaoyang waited for the Zhen household's reception while chatting with a smile. "Do you see who just went in?" "I did." Ding Songyan was not sure where this was going. Ren Yaoyang tilted his head with puzzlement. "You weren't entranced with beauty like that right before your eyes. I see her every morning and every night. And this outfit isn't even her at her most beautiful. Or perhaps, Brother Yaoyang, you're more taken by her second uncle." Ding Songyan organized his words. "She is certainly a peerless beauty, but Miss Xiao Qing comes to hear my stories every day. This isn't the first time I've seen her." By now, another Zhen family heir had arrived at the gate with his retinue to receive Ren Yaoyang, but dared not interrupt upon seeing him chatting happily with Ding Songyan. Hearing Ding Songyan's answer, Ren Yaoyang looked both astonished and enlightened. "So she's who the street rumors talk of, the lavish patron that's as beautiful as a goddess. How did I not realize?" He looked annoyed at himself, as though doubting his own intelligence. To avoid letting Ding Songyan notice his self-reproach, he twitched his canine ears and volunteered. "I only learned today that the other party is the Celestial Maiden sect from the Gan Kingdom." "The Celestial Maiden sect?" Ding Songyan was confused. "Isn't Xiao Qing a snake yao?" "You didn't know," Ren Yaoyang laughed. "That Miss Xiao Qing is Su Qingli, the younger sister of Su Yunzheng, known as the Spotless Gentleman. She came to Dingjiang Prefecture with their second uncle, Su Chengxiao." "Hey, you didn't tell Su Qingli what I said about Su Yunzheng, did you?" "No, I'm overthinking it. You two couldn't possibly meet in private." "So Xiao Qing's full name is Su Qingli. But isn't she a snake yao?" Ding Songyan still did not understand. How does a perfectly good snake yao end up joining the Celestial Maiden sect? And she's the biological sister of this spotless gentleman Su Yunzheng. Did someone poke a snake yao nest? My lips are sealed, naturally. Ding Songyan had no intention of telling Ren Yaoyang that Su Qingli might be a snake yao. He chose his words carefully. "Miss Xiao Qing did privately pressure me to write scripts, and she used a transformation to frighten me. But I kept my promise and never told her what you said, Brother Yaoyang." Ren Yaoyang laughed heartily. "Her using transformations to scare you is entirely in character. That's the Su family's nature, the Celestial Maiden sect's inherent vice." The Celestial Maiden sect primarily cultivates the Celestial Fox scripture. Their fundamental divine art is the myriad transformations, beguiling all living things grand method. That myriad transformations is no empty boast. Myriad transformations, beguiling all living things grand method. Myriad transformations. Was I being played by Xiao Qing? She's not a snake yao at all. The prettier the girl, the better she lies. Qingyan is one, and Miss Xiao Qing is another. The Celestial Maiden sect's lineage clearly derives from the nine-tailed fox, so she was toying with all living things. Ding Songyan did not know whether to laugh or cry, though he was not truly angry. This kind of small deception was harmless. Not being a snake, Yao actually relieved him since he was afraid of snakes. Ren Yaoyang suddenly looked puzzled. Su Qingli is only 16. She's barely come of age. She hasn't even finished body tempering and qi cultivation. She came to Dingjiang just to see the world. How could she have the ability to transform? He then provided his own explanation. An elder following in secret, creating a great void illusory realm, or lending her power. Listening to Ren Yaoyang's musings, Ding Songyan gradually felt something was not quite right. Given Xiao Qing's reaction to the legend of the white snake, given her attitude toward Yao in conversation, is she truly not one? When I used Yan Chanking's qi to pierce illusions outside Dangking Temple, I thought I glimpsed several fluffy white tails. Were those hers, or her second uncle protecting her from the shadows? Concerned about implicating Xiao Qing, Ding Songyan did not pursue this further. Instead he asked, "Is the 12 Ways of the Great Void another divine art from the celestial fox scripture? The myriad transformations, beguiling all living things' grand method is the substance. The 12 Ways of the Great Void is the application," Ren Yaoyang explained in a low voice. He then teased Ding Songyan with a smile. "If you could marry Su Qingli, you'd be the envy of who knows how many young heroes. The Su family has deep foundations, over 2,000 years of history. Every generation produces at least one supreme master at the Heaven Man realm. Occasionally, they even produce a sage at the Spirit Platform realm. And Su Qingli's aunt, Su Liuden, was once the most beautiful woman in the martial world. When Su Qingli fully comes into her own, with a little more effort, she could well become that kind of legend herself. What have I done to deserve such fortune?" Ding Songyan laughed. Ren Yaoyang chuckled and said, "Don't dismiss it. The Su family is actually quite peculiar. Every generation, they either cultivate alone or fall for ordinary mortals or unknown nobodies in the martial world. You fit the bill perfectly." Before Ding Songyan could respond, Ren Yaoyang pointed at the Zhen household's welcoming party at the gate. "I should head in. Can't keep them waiting." "Please, brother Yaoyang." Ding Songyan cupped his hands. Ren Yaoyang gazed at the open gate of the Zhen estate, at the grand reception party bowing deeply before him. A sudden wistfulness crossed his face. "Brother Ding, whenever I see a scene like this, I always think of a line from the opera. The gongs and drums sound, and all take the stage in their painted masks." With that said, he led his 4 guards and walked step by step toward the Zhen estate's gate. Only after Ren Yaoyang and his guards disappeared from sight, and the Zhen household servants led their horses forward to the hitching posts, did Ding Songyan enter through the side door and find Master Yu waiting for him. Without a word, he followed the man deeper into the Zhen estate, the route long since familiar. Along the way, he prayed to every god and Buddha he could think of, hoping that the small boat gang's fighters would launch their attack today and bring chaos. This was not his wish alone. He believed Yan Chanking, Zhen Qianfen, and the Ding family faction all shared the same expectation. Through all his probing these past days, and the abnormalities the Zhen household had displayed, Ding Songyan was now convinced that Zhen Qianfen had arranged for him to tell stories to Yan Chanking precisely to create an opportunity for the distinguished guest to escape. The reasoning was straightforward. After years of torture, Yan Chanking still refused to reveal where the celestial Thirche's treasure was hidden. Zhen Qianfen had reached 60 and could wait no longer. He chose to release the tiger back to the mountain and play the long game. His plan was to let Yan Chanking escape with great difficulty. Under the pressure of pursuit, Yan Chanking would be driven toward his hidden cache to retrieve the treasure as a desperate gambit for survival. At that point, Zhen Qianfen would appear at the perfect moment like a hunter lying in wait behind the hunter, the mantis stalking the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. If the strength and the number of people who came to save Yan Chanking exceeded his expectations, the true spirit sect and celestial maiden sect that he had lured over with something else would become his helpers. They would cooperate with the Grandmaster in the city to ensure that things would not fall into the worst-case scenario. The Zhen household's delay in inviting the storyteller was not because they did not trust him. It was because their external reinforcements had not yet arrived. The moment the celestial maiden sect and the true spirit sect's people appeared in Dingjiang, Ding Songyan received his invitation almost immediately. Given all this, The small boat gang wanted to attack the Zhen estate to avenge their humiliation. Yan Chengqing wanted the small boat gang to attack the Zhen estate, creating the necessary chaos for his escape. Zhen Qianfen wanted the small boat gang to attack the Zhen estate, creating the appearance that he was too distracted to prevent Yan Chengqing's escape. The Ding family faction wanted the small boat gang to attack the Zhen estate, so they could fish in troubled waters and take Yan Chengqing. Ding Songyan wanted the small boat gang to attack the Zhen estate. The bigger the chaos, the better. Chaos bred variables, and variables gave him a chance of surviving this ordeal. Therefore, if the small boat gang truly struck today, it would be a quintuple win. Amid these swirling thoughts, Ding Songyan once again saw the small building nestled among the flowering trees. Clatter, clatter, clatter. 3 thoroughbreds galloped in from beyond the city walls. At their head rode Zheng Zhuxi, now changed into a black fitted outfit with starlight and candle flame embroidered at the cuffs. She had set out at first light, riding hard with senior brother Wu Feng and senior sister Tao Huayu back to the Bright Night Sect's mountain gate to deliver her report. Then they switched horses and rode back to Linjiang. Over 6 hours had passed. Her mother, Bright Night Sect Master Tao Wenshu, had not accompanied them on horseback. For such distances, a spirit-resonated grandmaster was far faster than any horse, and she had long since arrived in the prefectural capital. Once through the city gate, Zheng Zhuxi reined in her impatience for fear of knocking into pedestrians. She dismounted, handed her horse to the sect brothers and sisters stationed at the gate, then deployed the waxing moon phantom form movement technique, weaving through the crowds and leaving behind faintly shimmering afterimages like mirages. Soon, she reached the tallest watchtower and climbed the wooden stairs to the very top. Besides the Tuya clan members on routine surveillance duty, a woman in black robes stood there. The woman appeared to be in her 30s and bore a 50-60% resemblance to Zheng Zhuxi. Though her features lacked Zheng Zhuxi's delicacy and beauty, having a face more angular in shape, she carried an added quality of mature grace tempered by years. She wore a rather heavy yet crude iron crown. In her left hand, she held a long sword concealed within a deep black scabbard. Both her eyes bore double pupils, each hiding glimmers of light within their darkness. "Mother, any activity from the Zhen estate?" Zheng Zhuxi caught her breath and asked urgently. Tao Wenshu glanced at her daughter. "Not yet. When will you learn to remain composed like your father, unmoved even if a mountain collapsed before you? Look at how restless you are. I'd have to switch to cultivating the scripture of utmost sincerity for that. Too late now." Zheng Zhuxi relaxed at the news and shot back playfully. Tao Wenshu turned her gaze toward North Water Street, toward the Zhen estate, and spoke in an even tone. "Magistrate Lin is already at the northern watchtower. County Marshal Yi is at the eastern watchtower. You can relax. Go back and get some rest. Even if you stayed here, your level of martial cultivation would be of no use." Zheng Zhuxi put on the manner of a petulant daughter. "My cultivation progress is no worse than core disciples of the great sects. Mother, if you'd born me a few years earlier, I'd surely have reached mortal surpassed by now, maybe even form transfigured. County Marshal Yi is only at form transfigured. Can he really hold off potential heretics?" Tao Wenshu, her black robes embroidered with scattered stars, kept her eyes on the Zhen estate. "Shooting from elevation alone, County Marshal Yi is sufficient to hold off a subtlety-attuned grandmaster." Zheng Zhuxi asked nothing more. She steadied her breathing and focused her full attention on what might unfold at the Zhen estate. The Zhen estate. River Waves Hall. Su Qingxiao and Su Qingli each sat cross-legged behind tea tables laid with refreshments. Their attendants and maidservants stood beside them. Opposite sat Ren Yaoyang, sprawled in his chair with a casual swagger, his 4 guards lined up behind him. At the seat of honor sat Zhen Qianfen in a black robe embroidered with the character for fortune and a 6-spanel cap. His 4 ears twitched faintly, as though listening to something unseen. Amid polite pleasantries, Zhen Quanwang approached his father carrying a wooden box draped in red cloth and handed it over. "My 3 honored guests." Zhen Qianfen accepted the box and placed it before him. "Allow me to let you verify its authenticity once more." He lifted the red cloth and opened the lid. Inside lay a fruit the size of a papaya that was entirely red. Even across the considerable distance, both Ren Yaoyang and Su Qingli caught a faint, clean fragrance. As it entered their nostrils, both felt as though their physical strength had grown slightly. "It's genuine." Su Qingxiao, in his bamboo crown, nodded gently. Zhen Qianfen closed the lid and spoke with evident sincerity. I originally had no wish to sell this huai fruit that came to me by chance. My worthless sons are dull in talent. To this day, not one has reached form transfigured. If one of them ate this fruit, it would surely give them greater ability to protect themselves after I'm gone. Unfortunately, things do not always go as one wishes. I can only sell this divine treasure. I ask for neither money nor secret manuals, only a promise. Ding Songyan had the black cloth placed over his eyes. Supported by 2 Zhen household members, he wound through corridor after corridor. Only when he arrived at Yan Changqing's location did a realization suddenly strike him. Why did I never consider simply not coming to tell stories to Yan Changqing today? I could have stalled for time and waited for the official authorities to finish their investigation and intervene directly. Though the Zhen household might have sent Master Yu or another retainer to force me here, the thought never even crossed my mind. That is certainly thanks to Yan Changqing or his old acquaintance. If it were the latter, they've confirmed today is the day. Even as these thoughts flashed through his mind, a cool sensation descended into Ding Songyan's sea of consciousness, resolving into the gaunt visage of Yan Changqing. Ding Songyan used the seed to split his mind in two. He began narrating the next episode of The Legend of the White Snake while simultaneously speaking to Yan Changqing above the golden, glittering, illusory ocean. "Senior, is today the day?" Yan Changqing smiled. "Let's watch a little longer, wait a little more." Ding Songyan glanced at the hazy light piercing through the mist, then asked, "What treasure did the Zhen household use to lure the true spirit sect and the celestial maiden sect here?" "A huai fruit." Yan Changqing smiled with the serenity of an old sage. "Eating it grants tremendous strength without interfering with other cultivation methods. When it comes to early-stage cultivation, both the celestial maiden sect and true spirit sect's arts are lacking in this area. Naturally, they covet it. But not enough to fight to the death over it. They're merely seeking an opportunity for their juniors. So that's why they brought Miss Zio Qing to see the world. They mean to feed it to her the moment they get it." Ding Songyan asked thoughtfully. "Then will they lend the Zhen household their strength and block your old acquaintance because of this?" Yan Changqing chuckled. "Wasn't it Zhen Qianfen who lured my old acquaintance here in the first place? Deliberately invited someone affiliated with my sect to visit, giving that person the chance to steal that copy of the secret classic of mountains and seas. After that, how could my elders and old friends fail to recognize my handwriting, or fail to discern what that secret classic truly signified? So that secret classic really was hand-copied by you, and it was the Zhen household that let it leak, so that was the intent all along." Ding Songyan pretended he had not already guessed this. More wary that Yan Changqing might be deliberately misleading him, he simply asked, "What does it signify?" Yan Changqing looked at him, his smile unchanged. "It signifies that great fortune I shall bestow upon you." He paced with hands clasped behind his back, his tone leisurely. "If the true spirit sect and celestial maiden sect's people can delay my old acquaintance for a time, that would be ideal. You brought that dagger, yes. I keep it on me at all times." Ding Songyan's nerves sharpened. Yan Changqing smiled. "It will have its use shortly." Upon hearing this, Ding Songyan thought of something and asked in a confirmatory tone, "Senior, you are skilled in the art of divination. Can you calculate whether the small boat gang will attack the Zhen estate today?" Yan Changqing smiled, took 2 more paces, and said with perfect calm, "They will." Moments ago, in the Zhen estate's rear gate, 2 porters dressed as farmers in broad hats with heads lowered carried shoulder poles laden with food ingredients. Led by a Zhen household servant, they made their way to the kitchen. After settling the payment, they followed the same servant back toward the gate. Along the route, household guards and patrolmen were remarkably sparse, as though they had all been reassigned somewhere else. Suddenly, one of the porters quickened his pace, came up beside the servant, and tapped his shoulder. The servant turned his head in irritation, only to see a pair of eyes stained with bloodthirsty malice, an albino pale face, and bright red lips with the texture of a bird's beak. Unbridled resentment surged in his heart, brimming with hatred for the Zhen household. Why should they drink and make merry, enjoying themselves day after day, while I toil under the blazing sun? The moment this thought arose, he wanted nothing more than to put a blade to the Zhen household's sons. Yet knowing he lacked the strength, he could only stomp back to his quarters in seething frustration to sleep, abandoning his duties entirely. With him gone, the 2 porters immediately slipped into the shadows of the covered walkway. They moved like phantoms, advancing silently toward Riverwave Hall where the Zhen estate was entertaining its honored guests. They maintained absolute silence. Neither spoke a word. Both knew that Zhen Qianfen cultivated the water ape divine art and possessed the ability to hear in all directions. The two porters seemed to possess considerable knowledge of the Zhen estate's layout. They circumvented the household guards, patrolmen, and disciples posted along the route with practiced ease. In only the time it took to drink 2 cups of tea, they had reached the vicinity of Riverwave's hall. They paused, concealing themselves in the shadows beside the building, in no rush to barge in. One of the porters was small boat gang leader Ma Hanjiang in disguise. He turned his gaze toward his partner. Riverwave's hall was currently packed with people, many of them powerhouses, perfect conditions for his partner's exploitations. Ma Hanjiang only hoped that once chaos erupted, they could finish quickly, achieve some result, and withdraw from the Zhen estate as fast as possible. In his view, this operation only needed to demonstrate that the small boat gang always repaid its grudges. Under no circumstances could they be spotted by the county or prefectural authorities, or the gang's legitimate enterprises would be uprooted entirely. After all, the emissary beside him belonged to the capsized vessel sect of the 21 heretical ways and was listed on the universally recognized 9 prisons ranking as one of the malevolent gods, and was a subtlety-attuned grandmaster. The other raised his broad hat slightly higher, revealing a face that seemed dipped in white dye and bright red lips that appeared cast from the material of a bird's beak. Brimming with bloodthirsty malice, his eyes swept the area. Motes of radiance appeared in the air around him, faintly outlining a great eagle with a white head, red beak, and black markings. His hands slid free from his sleeves, shaped like tiger claws. An indescribable aura of violence and murderous intent rippled outward, spreading silently in all directions, seeping into Riverwave's hall. Ma Hanjiang hurriedly gathered his focus to resist the influence. But the more he suppressed his emotions, the more aggrieved he felt. Why should the Four Waters Brotherhood be allowed to set traps for the small boat gang while the gang cannot strike back? Why should the Zhen family be allowed to stir up so much trouble while the gang cannot retaliate in full? Why? I'll make the Zhen household's blood run like rivers. At the top of the tallest watchtower, a prefectural constable rushed up without pausing to bow and thrust a sheet of paper toward Tao Wenshu. Sect Master Tao, the Martial Prohibition Bureau in the Flame Capital has replied. 3 members of the Ding household have been identified. Since Zheng Zhuxi reported Ding Songyan's problems and her own suspicions to the prefectural office the previous night, the authorities had assigned agents to watch each member of the Ding household, sketch their likenesses, and cross-reference them against wanted lists. Simultaneously, they had used 3 different methods to send overnight reports to the Martial Prohibition Bureau in the Flame Capital. Ning Province was right next to the Flame Capital, not far at all, so the reply came today. This did not mean the authorities were certain the Ding family was problematic. The Zhen household warranted far more attention. But since Ding Songyan was involved, every person close to him had to be investigated without exception. After Tao Wenshu took the papers, Zheng Zhuxi leaned in curiously, examining the portraits and reading the text below. On the first sheet she saw a drawing of Ding Shengyi, but with 2 antennae covered in blood-red scales protruding from his forehead, and skin that was reddish in tone. The corresponding text read, Q Chen, disciple of the Moth God sect in the Feng Kingdom, listed in the 9 prisons ranking under Death Intent Prison, assessed as form transfigured, 45 years old, previously active only in the Feng and Yu kingdoms. Expelled from the Moth God sect for pursuing the ultimate moth seed by transforming his own sect brothers into mothmen, a scourge upon the region. He wanted to also turn moth patriarchs and moth matriarchs into mothmen to see if it would produce a better, stronger transformation, truly worthy of a place on the 9 prisons ranking. Zheng Zhuxi clicked her tongue, feeling that Ding Shengyi was almost single-minded in his devotion. The 9 prisons ranking was established jointly by the foremost orthodox sects. It catalogued notorious individuals among the heretical paths, allowing Jianghu members to track them or gauge their strength upon encounter. It was divided into 9 prison levels, each corresponding to a tier of heretical practitioners. Death Intent Prison was the 6th prison, representing the form transfigured of the Great Proliferation Realm. Malevolent God Prison was the 7th prison, representing Dharma Realm Grandmasters. The Ding family really is compromised. Ding Songyan truly has jackals before him, tigers behind him, and he sits in a demon's lair himself. Zheng Zhaxi could not help but exclaim. After Ding Shengyi's page, Tao Wenshu turned to the second sheet. It depicted Bull Ding but with horsehair covering his body, a serpent's tail and hooves for feet. Li Zhai, between 22 and 25 years old. Origins unknown. Possesses the Celestial Human 10 Forces secret script. Major bandit of New Yu. Listed in the 9 prisons ranking under the Soul Breath prison. Assessed as mortal surpassed. He frequently kills people at random on the roadside, seeking neither beauty nor wealth. However, he has been spotted multiple times in pleasure houses, narrowly escaping each time. So the Ding family has 2 people on the 9 prisons ranking. Truly no simple bunch. Zheng Zhaxi shook her head as she read. To make the 9 prisons ranking required either formidable strength, a record brimming with evil, or exceptional potential. Tao Wenshu quickly turned to the 3rd page. This one depicted Liu Yuzhou, her face lovely and without abnormalities. Qi Zioxiang, between 40 and 45 years old. Origins unknown. Martial arts unknown. No overt record of evil. 3 years ago, miners at Shu Mountain rioted and slaughtered each other in an incident suspected to be orchestrated by her. Over 300 people died horribly, and Shu Mountain copper output ceased for half a year. Active only in the Yu and Gan kingdoms, her other activities are unknown. Given her appearance, she likely has a concealment art or has someone regularly masking her true form. Tao Wenshu handed the 3 sheets to Zheng Zhaxi and turned to the constable who had served as their courier. Inform Magistrate Lin that he may now personally pay the Zhen household a visit. He must delay whatever may be about to happen. The agents watching Qiu Chen, Li Zhai, and Qi Zioxiang must be swapped out immediately. At minimum, mortals surpassed. The constable did not turn to descend. Using the paper and brush kept ready in the watchtower, he wrote down these 2 instructions, then handed the paper to one of the Yi clan members on surveillance duty. The Yi clansman first wound the paper around an arrow shaft and secured it. Then he aimed at the northern watchtower, drew back his bowstring, and shot out the white-feathered arrow. The arrow shot forward with a whistle. It did not slow even after 1,000 feet, nor did it catch fire. It traversed nearly half the city, gradually slowing, arcing downward, yet threaded unerringly into the northern watchtower, where it was caught by a hand covered in dark blue-black scales. After the constable descended from the watchtower, Zheng Zhaxi glanced at the 2 Yi clan members focused on their surveillance and whispered to her mother, "Mother, why didn't you simply protect Ding Songyan directly instead of letting him enter the Zhen estate? You clearly already had people watching both the Zhen household and the Ding family." Tao Wenshu tilted her head slightly and glanced at her daughter. By the time I had the full picture, Ding Songyan had already entered the Zhen estate. As for Magistrate Lin and the others, which do you think matters more to them? The possible location of Kunlun or Ding Songyan? Zheng Zhaxi froze. Tao Wenshu spoke in a gentle voice that carried an unmistakable tone of instruction. If you truly wanted to save Ding Songyan, you should have found a different pretext to report to the authorities last night, rather than laying out his problems in full. You needed to make them pay attention without paying too much attention. Don't assume that everyone thinks like you, that every life is paramount. As your mother, I'm proud of your sincerity, your eagerness to help out of righteousness, and your compassion for the weak. But doing things well requires strategy. You cannot assume that everything will work out simply because your intentions are good. You are still too young, with no Jianghu experience. Take more lessons now so you won't suffer greatly in the future. Zheng Zhaxi's mind was in turmoil. She felt both outraged at how others could act this way as well as deeply frustrated and guilty. Tao Wenshu continued, her words both consolatory and educational. Do you think Magistrate Lin and the others are wrong? That they're callously ignoring Ding Songyan's peril? But have you considered this? If this truly involves the location of Kunlun, and heretics obtain it and enter the celestial Thirch's palace, wouldn't the world be thrown into chaos? Countless lives would be lost. Until they have absolute certainty, Magistrate Lin and the others do not want to alert their targets. They don't want to corner the Zhen household and those heretics into desperate action. That would risk not only leaking information about Kunlun, but also very likely endanger the innocent people in this city. Zhang Zhuxi wanted to argue but could not find the words. She herself felt there was some truth in what her mother said. But is it truly right to simply watch an innocent person walk into danger? Tao Wenshu said softly. Zai Zai, many matters and the choices involved are not black and white, not simply right or wrong. They are often gray, both right and wrong at the same time. Focus on your martial arts. Only when they are strong enough can you take the path you hold in your heart. Only then, even after you understand how complicated the world truly is, will you still be willing to be a candle illuminating the long night. As she spoke, Tao Wenshu glanced back toward the south side of the city. Within 2 hours, the Yi clan patriarch will arrive by flying vessel. Likewise for the gold and silver twin swords of the self-revering sect. In another half-day or so, Senior Tian of the Divine Empyrean sect may arrive as well. As long as things can be delayed a while longer, those heretics will be unable to stir up any real trouble. The longer the delay, the safer Ding Songyan becomes. At that point, rescuing him will be effortless. The Divine Empyrean sect was located in Zhao Province, west of Ning Province. Their grand elder, Tian Shuyu, was one of the 3 sages of Great Zhao. From the previous night until now, the Dingjiang Prefecture authorities appear to have done nothing, yet were quietly casting an inescapable net. Zhang Zhuxi's eyes flickered as she sank into bewildered thought. The Zhen estate, inside Riverwaves Hall. Patriarch Zhen Qianfen pressed his right hand on the wooden box containing the Hue fruit. He looked first at Su Chengxiao of the Celestial Maiden sect, then at Ren Yaoyang of the True Spirit sect, and spoke in a deep voice. The promise is not complicated, nor does it involve anything else. Within 3 days, should the Zhen household face danger, I ask that you provide your assistance once, provided it does not endanger your own lives. If all 3 days pass without incident, consider the promise fulfilled. Might I know who can accept this promise? Hearing this, Ren Yaoyang's face darkened. His canine ears stood straight up. Behind him, the guard named Meng Kings felt an inexplicable surge of fury and resentment. Meng Kings, who bore strange patterns along the sides of his face, cultivated the scripture of True Spirit karmic position, one of the True Spirit sect's 2 foundational arts. This art offered 3 choices corresponding to 3 different paths. One was the useless divine art, the second was summoning divine possession, and the third was flesh ghost binding. Meng Kings had chosen the latter. Influenced by evil ghosts, he was perpetually steeped in yin energy, his violent impulses barely contained. He had to chant sutras and pray daily, restraining his desires as a counterbalance. At this very moment, he felt an icy chill surge from the depths of his heart. Evil ghosts whispered ceaselessly in his ears, urging him to kill everyone who displeased him, to drink his fill of hot blood. Why should I alone endure this torment? Why do those who chose summoning divine possession or those who cultivate the chapter of Tao-following nature never have to suffer this? Why? His murderous intent crystallized. Meng Kings suddenly turned and struck a palm toward his fellow sect member beside him, Qin Li, who cultivated the summoning divine art. His palm was tinged with a spectral green. It vanished bizarrely mid-strike, then reappeared just as eerily before Qin Li's chest, slamming straight down. Caught completely off guard, Qin Li had no time to dodge. He could only let golden light surge before his chest, attempting to condense it into armor plates. Before the golden armor could fully form, Meng King's palm had already struck him. With a sound like rotting wood splintering, Qin Li staggered back several steps and slammed into one of Riverwaves Hall's vermilion support pillars. The golden light across his chest dissipated instantly. His clothes disintegrated like decaying butterflies, revealing a sinister green palm print. Qin Li had initially felt only shock and bewilderment. Now fury surged through him, his eyes reddening. He swore to return this palm strike, swore to make Meng Kings suffer just as grievously. While the two fought fiercely, Ren Yaoyang's other 2 guards turned their gazes upon Su Chengxiao, brimming with violent hostility. Your celestial maiden sect isn't even from our great Zhao. What right do you have to compete for the Hue fruit? And you, Su Chengxiao, what right do you have to be so handsome, so distinguished, that every maid and woman in the Zhen estate can't take their eyes off you? Kill, kill, kill. One charged toward Su Chengxiao like a fierce gale. The other seemed to merge with the shadows cast by sunlight through the latticed windows, silently circling to Su Chengxiao's flank. Both of you think you're worthy of attacking me. Su Qingxiao found it both laughable and infuriating, a trace of violent impulse churning in his chest. He sprang upward in an instant, sweeping his wide sleeve. With a loud gust of wind, the guard charging head-on toward Su Qingxiao suddenly felt as though he had arrived in autumn. The sun was no longer harsh, only casting a gentle warmth. A soft, pleasant breeze carried the fragrance of wheat and fruit, intoxicating the senses. On a day like this, one should lie on a rattan cot, drowsy and content. Drowsiness surged through the guard. His entire body went limp, wanting nothing more than to lie down right there and enjoy autumn's tranquility. The autumn lethargy way of the 12 ways of the great void. The instant his movements slowed, a crack of a whip sounded across his body, snap after snap merging into one continuous burst. The guard was lashed off his feet and sent flying backward. His torso was covered in bloody welt marks. Some broke his ribs, others had a soft force penetrating deep into his body, and one struck directly beside his ear, whipping him unconscious. The celestial maiden's invisible whip, only heard but never seen. Su Qingxiao was still relatively able to restrain the violent impulse within him. He had clearly held back, otherwise, with his ability, 6 simultaneous lashes all landing would have meant certain death for his opponent. The heart-confounding, mind-disrupting grand art. The capsized vessel sect. Su Qingxiao turned his gaze toward the doorway. Faced with this sudden anomaly, Zhen Qianfen at the head of the hall shot to his feet. By now, Zhen Quanwang at his side had at some point gone red in the eyes. "You undying old bastard, why won't you just die already? I'm well past 30 and still only get to make decisions on trivial matters in this household. Once you die, I'll become the master." Zhen Quanwang thrust out a palm as though carrying a tumultuous flood. Specks of faint light suddenly appeared around Zhen Qianfen, like shimmering reflections on water. Almost simultaneously, within a 30-foot radius, the daylight dimmed as though layers of phantom waves were converging into a deep sea. The black shadow beneath Zhen Qianfen's feet suddenly expanded outward like a leviathan diving into the ocean depths. Zhen Quanwang's palm grew slower and slower the further it advanced, finally stopping dead within the heavy waves. HMPH. Zhen Qianfen swept his sleeve and sent this worthless sun flying, knocking teeth loose and sending blood streaming from the corners of his mouth. Right on the heels of that, he glared at Su Qingxiao with a gaze full of violent hostility, lunged forward, and threw a punch. Phantom waves surged and layered themselves upon Zhen Qianfen's fist. The floor of Riverwaves Hall rapidly took on a sheen of moisture. Within 30 or 40 feet, everyone felt as though they were drowning, their breathing no longer smooth. Seeing this, Su Qingli darted from her position with the swiftness of a hare bounding from a falcon's stoop, retreating toward a corner of the building. Her maidservant followed close behind. She had said she knew only a smattering of martial arts, and that was indeed all she knew. Acting as an anomaly manifested through transformations and illusions was one thing, but in a battle involving grandmasters, her skills were nothing to speak of. It was better to stay far away than distract her second uncle. No sooner had she crouched in a corner far from the battlefield than she discovered someone else already hiding there. Ren Yaoyang, his feathered robes and tall cap both hopelessly askew. "What a coincidence!" Su Qingli greeted him with the faintest twitch of her lips, not at all surprised by this display from a true spirit sect direct disciple ranked on the Orchid Fresh list. Ren Yaoyang replied with considerable embarrassment. "Miss Su, the fact that we're less affected proves that we're both people of peaceful temperament who cherish everything in nature and cannot bear to harm others. Quite the coincidence indeed. Generally speaking, the higher one's martial arts, the more lives one has taken, and the more latent killing intent accumulates. Only someone with martial arts as meager as mine would have no thought of harming others." Su Qingli bickered back with a touch of combativeness while turning her gaze toward her second uncle. Facing Zhen Qianfen's strike, Su Qingxiao tapped the ground with his foot and retreated rapidly, sleeves billowing. Between them, the crack of invisible whip lashes sounded again and again, each swallowed by the surging phantom water or blocked by Zhen Qianfen's fists. Seeing himself drawing closer and closer, Zhen Qianfen's spirit suddenly swelled with elation. He seemed to see himself having already slain his powerful foe, obtaining what he had long dreamed of, finally completing his foundation. He broke through barrier after barrier without stopping. He entered the Heaven Man realm, ascended to the spirit platform, and found the method to breach the heaven and earth severance and enter the heavenly realm. His smile became unmistakable. His entire being grew light, floating higher and higher. The heavenly realm was now within sight. He relaxed completely in both body and mind when a slender, snow-white palm appeared before his eyes. That palm descended from the heavenly realm, pressing down toward the crown of his head. The immortality ascension way of the 12 ways of the great void. The instant the palm reached the crown of his head, an intense sense of danger erupted within Zhen Qianfan. Without time to think, he commanded the pitch-black shadow at his feet, the one that had taken the form of a leviathan, to rapidly contract upward and merge with his body. With a great rushing sound, Zhen Qianfan thrust a single palm upward. This palm was like a colossal sea creature leaping from the deep, carrying the ferocity to overturn rivers and seas. It churned the surrounding phantom water into a violent maelstrom. The dark, swirling vortex centered on Zhen Qianfan's palm drew Su Qingxiao's immortality ascension, palm strike toward it before the two collided. Boom! Water exploded outward, cascading downward like a torrential rain that drenched the entire hall, and shooting upward as a geyser that smashed through the roof. Zhen Quanwang, knocked back to his senses by his father's blow, saw this scene and decided that staying in Riverwave's hall was extremely dangerous. He scrambled and crawled toward the back of the hall, fleeing toward the outside. At the same time, the broad hat-wearing Dai Shen of the capsized vessel sect and Ma Hanjiang of the small boat gang stepped past the retainers, guards, and servants who had already begun slaughtering each other, arriving at the main entrance. Dai Shen's bright red, beak-like lips split into a grin. Seizing the moment, Su Qingxiao had been forced to flip upward by Zhen Qianfan's palm to dissipate the force, while Zhen Qianfan's feet had sunk into the wet ground, briefly immobilizing him. He drove his right palm forward, tiger claws stained with blood red, each talon razor-sharp, aimed straight at Zhen Qianfan's forehead. Zhen Qianfan remained composed under pressure and inhaled sharply. It was like a great whale drawing in the sea. In an instant, all the surrounding phantom water was absorbed into his body. An instant later, with no time to thrust his palm upward again, Zhen Qianfan clenched his fist and threw an empty punch. A violent roar of water suddenly erupted. Torrents of phantom water burst forth from where Zhen Qianfan's fist met the air, as though a river's dam had burst. This drew the waterfall from the decorative rockery outside, which slammed at an angle into the hall. The surging force pushed Dai Shen back 10 feet, his attack failing to connect. Ren Yaoyang's guards and Su Qingxiao's attendants were all swept off their feet. Ma Hanjiang of the small boat gang did not join the assault on Zhen Qianfan. His mind held only one thought, making the Zhen household's blood run like rivers. He saw Zhen Quanwang's retreating figure, and with killing intent flooding his brain, he manifested tortoiseshell patterns on his body as he sprinted in pursuit. From the corner near the main entrance, the crouching Su Qingli said to Ren Yaoyang, "It's rather dangerous here. Easy to get caught in the crossfire. I'm going to find somewhere else to hide." Without waiting for his reply, she braced her hand, smashed through a wooden window, and landed lightly on the covered walkway outside Riverwave's hall. Moving with elegant agility as she floated high and low, she ran along eaves and walls, nimbly putting distance between herself and this place of mutual slaughter. Her maidservant followed using the same movement technique. After fleeing for a while, Su Qingli spotted Ren Yaoyang barreling through one battle zone after another like a stray dog in full sprint. Ahead of him, a cluster of guards were fighting among themselves, nearly impossible to get around. With a sigh, the girl turned back, grabbed Ren Yaoyang's shoulder, and carried him along as she kicked off a wooden pillar, leapt onto the rooftop, crossed over rows of black tiles, and dropped down on the other side. Lotus Pond Courtyard. Having sent Kui off on other business, Qin Nuansheng had already followed Liu Yuzao's instructions and changed into plain servant's clothing, restyling her hair into twin-loop buns. "Later, smear some dust on your face. Pretend you fell while fleeing the estate," Qi Zioxiang, under the alias Liu Yuzhao, offered a few instructions. Before Qin Nuansheng could say more, she nodded gently and continued. "The moment chaos breaks out, flee the estate. Go to the Li family steamed bun shop on Guangsheng Street. Say you want 3 plain buns, 1 donkey meat filling, 1 venison filling, 1 fruit filling. Someone will be there to receive you and arrange your departure from Dingjiang Prefecture. You've performed very well these past 2 years. The sect master is pleased. After everything is done, Do you want a sum of silver to live freely from now on, or would you like to choose a supreme art and train in martial arts? Qin Nuansheng was quite surprised. I'm already 22. Can I still take up martial arts? I didn't start aperture refinement until I was 24. Haven't you also been body tempering and qi cultivating while at the Zhen household? Qi Zioxiang said in her cool, detached voice. Qin Nuansheng's face lit up with joy. She performed a deep bow of gratitude. Please convey my thanks to the sect master. Qi Zioxiang returned to her taciturn state and waited patiently. After an indeterminate amount of time, a boom sounded from somewhere in the Zhen estate. The faint sounds of battle cries and clashing blades drifted over. Qi Zioxiang nodded to Qin Nuansheng, then walked out of the Lotus Pond courtyard on her own. From within her robes, she produced a mechanical contraption resembling a firework. Bang, 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 3 trails of sparks, red, yellow, and green, shot into the sky and burst into brilliant flowers. Inside the county office, Qiu Chen, under the alias Ding Shengyi, was processing documents as usual, seemingly unaware that several colleagues were watching him. Bang, bang, bang. He raised his head and looked out the window, seeing fireworks blossoming in the sky. A constable who had been pretending to chat nearby suddenly felt a swelling pain in his head. Long, tendril-like appendages seemed to be extending from his nose, mouth, and ears. His vision went black. He drew his saber and slashed violently at another constable nearby. Inside the clerk's room, several other people likewise erupted into violence. At the docks, seeing the red, yellow, and green fireworks bloom in the sky, Bull Ding's face instantly split into a broad grin. He whirled around and drove a fist straight into the foreman's face. Bang! The foreman's entire face caved inward as his body was sent flying over 10 feet. With a thud, the foreman's corpse hit the ground. Li Zhai, under the alias Bull Ding, had already closed the distance to the constable disguised as an accountant in a single bound, nearly leaving an afterimage. There was nothing fancy about it. His arms swelled, and he raised a fist the size of a sandpot and drove it straight forward. Seeing the air being torn apart, the constable had no time to dodge and could only raise his saber to block. Clang! The saber shattered into several pieces, sheath and all. Li Zhai's fist barely slowed before it struck the constable square in the chest. Amid the sound of ribs snapping one after another, the constable staggered back several steps and collapsed to the ground, more breath leaving than entering. Clad in short brown clothes, Li Zhai's hoofed feet stomped down once and he shot forward with the divine stride of a galloping horse, his black-scaled serpent tail trailing behind as he hurtled toward the nearby warehouse. Whoosh! 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 3 sharp arrows flew from the watchtower to the east, tracing a line from Li Zhai's former position all the way to his destination. They punched through wooden planks or blasted craters in the earth, but ultimately arrived a beat too late. After Li Zhai threw himself into the warehouse, he kicked out repeatedly, shattering multiple jars of potent spirits. Liquor flowed wildly across the floor, its fragrance filling the air. Immediately after, the notorious bandit of New Yu retrieved several pre-hidden jars of gunpowder from the depths of the warehouse and lit the fuses with a fire starter. As the fuses rapidly shortened, Li Zhai sprinted toward the far side of the warehouse, turned sideways, and crashed through the wooden wall with a bang. He tumbled out as the structure swayed and groaned behind him. Boom! Explosions rang out one after another, blowing the warehouse roof sky-high and sending thick black smoke billowing upward. Crimson flames followed, rapidly consuming the warehouse and surging into the sky. The commotion immediately drew squads of patrolling constables and Bright Knight sect disciples rushing toward the docks. From the eastern watchtower, Yikinkang drew 4 white-feathered arrows and knocked all of them on his bowstring simultaneously. Swoosh! 4 arrows shot out as one, each igniting with a blazing red glow. They transformed into brilliant fire serpents, flying toward Li Zhai from all 4 directions, front, back, left, and right. Li Zhai paid them no mind and simply charged forward. In his eyes, a single violently burning crimson fire arrow was reflected. That arrow moved so fast it nearly broke the sound barrier. Li Zhai didn't even have a chance to raise his fist to deflect it. He could only flex the muscles in his legs, push off with his anomalous hooves, and wrench himself sideways hard enough to leave an afterimage. This was the divine stride technique from the Celestial Human 10 Force's secret script. The 3 arrows Yikinkang had fired left, right, and behind all missed. The crimson fire arrow pursuing Li Jai struck the afterimage, then continued onward, hurtling toward the slowing enemy's spine. Li Jai suddenly twisted his waist, turning his body sideways. The crimson arrow grazed past his back, leaving behind a distinct smell of scorching, a deep blackened wound, and a tuft of horsehair that caught fire. Rolling and tumbling, Li Jai threw himself into another warehouse. Inside the Zhen estate, Lin Hansheng, the magistrate of Dingjiang Prefecture who had already arrived, heard the explosions from the eastern docks and saw the firelight rising into the sky. His dark-complexioned face showed no wavering. He did not go to reinforce the docks. Instead, he raised both palms, which were covered in dark blue-black scales. A deep, eerie mist immediately pervaded the area, as though dark clouds were concealed within. Wind rose suddenly, and the cloud mist, covering 100-foot radius and seemingly brewing a violent storm, was blown rapidly toward Riverwaves Hall. In just a few breaths, it had enveloped the building. In the eyes of capsized vessel Sex Dai Shen, the pre-storm mist was impossibly ethereal. Something long and sinuous seemed to be charging through its depths, appearing and vanishing unpredictably, making it impossible to know from which direction it would emerge next. Lin Hansheng had trained at the Flame Capital Martial Academy, ascending step by step to the Dharma realm. Currently a second-rank subtlety-attuned grandmaster, his martial art was the Flood Dragon Metamorphosis scripture. This strike was the first metamorphosis, Cloud Mist Metamorphosis. With a body hidden within clouds, it was impossible to trace. His fists were like a flood dragon unleashing a mountain torrent. Unable to discern where Lin Hansheng's punch would come from, how it would arrive, or where it would land, Dai Shen could only bring his tiger claws together before his chest, as if cradling an invisible water sphere, then gently rotate it. The Zhen household retainers, guards, and scions who had been slaughtering each other inside and outside Riverwaves Hall, along with Su Qingxiao's attendants and Ren Yaoyang's guards, suddenly felt a nearly phantasmal blood-colored essence fly from their bodies, converging between Dai Shen's palms in the blink of an eye. The violent impulse within them dissipated as they collapsed to the ground, drained and on the verge of unconsciousness. An instant later, only Zhen Qianfen was still attacking Su Qingxiao, while Lin Hansheng's cloud mist enveloped Dai Shen. The invisible sphere between Dai Shen's palms rapidly took on streaks of blood red. Just as Lin Hansheng's fist, covered in dark blue-black scales, arm and all, burst from the dim clouds like a leaping flood dragon, striking from a direction his opponent could never have anticipated. Aimed at the left-path demon's waist, Dai Shen slammed his palms together. The blood-colored sphere silently exploded, transforming into phantom red waves composed of sword techniques, fist intents, saber forces, and staff strikes. With Dai Shen's body at the center, they surged outward in all directions without gap or omission, successfully intercepting Lin Hansheng's traceless punch. Gather the waters, only then can you capsize the vessel. This even tore apart the dim clouds, revealing the flood dragon to all. Lin Hansheng had a horse-like face, dotted with patches of dark blue-black scales. After releasing the specialized fireworks, Qi Zioxiang, under the alias Liu Yuzhou, paid Qin Nuansheng no further attention. With a tap of her toes, she slipped nimbly out of the Lotus Pond courtyard. She swiftly entered another building, tore down curtains and hangings, then produced a fire starter. With a pull and a blow, she set everything ablaze. As flames rose, Qi Zioxiang moved through building after building, setting fires indiscriminately. The entire Zhen estate became a living hell, smoke rising and fires burning at every turn. Servants and maids either fled in all directions or attempted to fight the fires. Everything was in chaos. Occasionally, guards or retainers who hadn't gone to Riverwaves Hall encountered Qi Zioxiang. The woman would either use her movement technique to slip past them entirely, or draw a short sword barely over a foot long. She would lightly flick aside her opponent's weapon with casual ease. Then, as bewilderment filled their faces, follow through with a stroke across their throats. Their shocked incomprehension froze in their eyes. They seemed unable to fathom how they had died so quickly, unable to understand why martial arts they had drilled to perfection now felt so unfamiliar, as though they no longer belonged to them, leaving openings everywhere. Atop the tallest watchtower, Zheng Zhuxi alternated her gaze between the county office and the Zhen estate, finding both in considerable chaos. Inside the county office, Bright Knight sect disciples had not been afflicted by moth seeds and were working alongside some constables to subdue former colleagues who had become moth people. Meanwhile, Qiu Chen, under the alias Ding Shengyi, had been darting between rooms, never allowing himself to be exposed to watchtower surveillance. The Zhen estate, on the other hand, had fires breaking out everywhere and maids and servants scattering in all directions. Apart from the area around Riverwaves Hall, it was impossible to determine where intruders remained or how many there were. Seeing that senior military advisor Gao and others from the prefectural office had already reached the county office, Zheng Zhuxi breathed a sigh of relief and turned her attention back to the Zhen estate. She noticed her mother, Tao Wenshu, merely gazing at the estate with starlight hidden in her eyes, not even assuming a stance to draw her sword. Feeling somewhat puzzled and concerned, she asked, "Mother, why haven't you made your move yet?" Tao Wenshu smiled faintly. "The true mastermind hasn't appeared yet." The true mastermind? Zheng Zhuxi's thoughts stirred. She immediately let her pupils take on the dim but warm glow of candlelight. When she looked toward the Zhen estate again, every detail became extraordinarily clear, as though the distance between them had shrunk to within 100 feet. Zheng Zhuxi swept her gaze rapidly across the various scenes. Suddenly, she caught a figure flashing through the corridor leading to Zhen Qianfen's residence, a glimpse of pale spring onion white. Inside the Zhen estate's secret prison, seeing that Yan Chanking within his consciousness had gone silent and closed his eyes to rest, Ding Songyan had no choice but to suppress his anxiety. He split his attention, devoting half his mind to earnestly narrating the legend of the white snake. After a while, Yan Chanking within his consciousness slowly opened his eyes and said with a faint smile, "You may act now." Deep underground where no commotion could be heard, Ding Songyan was momentarily startled, then felt his heart leap into his throat. Yan Chanking said to him unhurriedly, "Split the chi I gave you into 2 halves, move them to both palms, and strike the men on either side simultaneously. Afterward, I'll replenish you so you can carry me out of the Zhen estate." "Understood." Ding Songyan immediately let the hazy seed split in 2, directing each half into a palm. His mind and spirit instantly unified, elevating him above when he sensed the breathing of the 2 Zhen clan scions flanking him, sensed the existence of heaven and earth's vital energy, and sensed the chaotic presence of clouds, mist, rain, and water not far away. Ding Songyan could no longer continue narrating the legend of the white snake. He closed his mouth, followed the breathing he had sensed, and shoved both palms outward toward the 2 Zhen scions. At that moment, a thought suddenly struck him as wrong. Why am I so obedient to Yan Chanking? He tells me to strike and I strike. He tells me to kill and I kill. Hadn't I resolved to stall whenever possible, to refuse cooperation wherever I could, and wait for the authorities to arrive? The Zhen household is my enemy, the Ding family is my enemy, and Yan Chanking is also my enemy. It was too late to halt his outward pushing palms. He could only forcibly withdraw a portion of his strength. Bang! Torrential floods burst from his palms, crashing into the 2 Zhen scions. They were sent flying backward, slamming into the walls. Each uttered a single groan of pain before falling silent. Ding Songyan hurriedly tore the black cloth from his face and found that both Zhen scions had been knocked unconscious. Then he turned his gaze forward. In the cramped cell behind the flickering oil lamp stood a grand armchair. In it sat a man. The man wore a Huyang scholar's cap and a Scion scholar's robe. His features were gaunt, his temples streaked with gray-white. It was none other than Yan Chanking. Almost simultaneously, Ding Songyan noticed that the sleeves and lower hem of the Scion robe hung limp and empty, with nothing to support them. Yan Chanking had no arms and legs. "Young friend, you may take out that dagger now." Yan Chanking's voice resonated within Ding Songyan's consciousness. His eyes had both black and white as they should, but the black irises seemed to carry some strange power that drew one's attention irresistibly. "Zhen Qianfen administers strange drugs to me every day. If that thing is not removed, I fear it will be impossible to truly escape his grasp afterward. He greatly underestimates my knowledge. You want me to cut you open?" Surprised though he was, Ding Songyan still retrieved the finely forged steel dagger from a hidden pocket in his clothing. He had barely taken 2 steps forward when a sudden pounding erupted from behind. Before he could react, The heavy iron door was being pushed open with a grinding screech. Who? Ding Songyin whirled around in alarm and saw a figure both familiar and strange. She wore a pale spring onion white short jacket embroidered with silver trim and a stand-up collar, paired with a goose-yellow light silk skirt. Her hair was simply pinned up and bound with a white silk kerchief, most of it cascading down her back, jet black and lustrous. Her beauty was peerless, her brows and eyes like poetry and painting. Her mere presence seemed to transform the stale, murky air of the cell into something fresh and clean. Qingyan! Ding Songyin spoke her name. This woman was clearly Ding Qingyan, yet she seemed to have aged several years overnight. Her features had fully matured, her figure had grown graceful, retaining a maiden's youthful freshness while carrying an alluring charm. She was breathtakingly beautiful, impossible to look away from. In that instant, Ding Songyin caught a change of expression on Yan Changqing's face in the corner of his vision. In his memory, this old man was either calmly smiling or utterly unruffled. Rarely did he show any other emotion. But now, a barely concealed fear had surfaced. You! Yan Changqing's aged, hoarse voice rang out. The woman's beautiful eyes turned, and she smiled charmingly. Master, your disciple has come to rescue you. Atop the tallest watchtower, Zheng Zhuxi asked her mother with puzzlement, Mother, who could the true mastermind be? Also, I asked you earlier. Besides moth seeds and goo sorcery, what other methods can make a person do things they don't want to do or prevent them from saying what they wish to say? You never gave me an answer. Tao Wenchu's expression grew somewhat grave as she said, I'd thought about it for a long time. Considering that the physical anomalies of Qiu Chen, Li Zhai, and Qi Zioxiang have been concealed, I believe the most likely explanation is Sutra of Celestial Heart Wisdom.